Hey, how are you?
I'm good. I'm glad I could make it to this live.
I know, me too.
You got home
Um,
fast, I guess, with that LA
what was
traffic.
that?
You said you're on
You
your way
know
home?
what? I was super close. I was literally less than a mile away. So
Smart. That makes sense.
I know you used to live here in LA.
I did. Up until I lived there for like 6 years, up until like a year and a half ago, and then I moved to San Diego. So
A year and a half ago. So where are you from originally?
I am from the Bay.
Oh, cool. So that's what I kind of felt. I kind of felt like you were a California girl at heart. But it is
Yeah,
hard to say because also California encapsulates a person. Like I'm not from
definitely.
here, but
Oh, really?
when I moved to California, everyone thought I was from here.
I would have
Yeah.
thought you were too, honestly. You have a vibe.
Thank you. Okay, so I don't know if you've done a live with other people before, but
Yeah,
um the comments and the numbers and everything that you see on your side, only you can see. So if you want to answer anyone's question, if you could read it out loud so we know on either side um,
mhm.
what what's coming through. So
Yeah.
one
I
thing,
actually. Oh, sorry.
sorry, I
Oh,
mean,
sorry.
sorry. I'm
We're
just
both
coming
just ready. We're both
from,
just excited.
it is my birthday week. So I was just coming from like an impromptu lunch, dinner, happy hour situation. And I literally just bumped into like 7 people that I knew, like randomly at a restaurant that just opened. So I just have to say that, normally I would not do it this way, but I am a little buzzed. And I just want to put that out there just because, just to be
That's
fully
fair.
honest here, that
So
I
you're,
literally
so
just was going to like a birthday quick little lunch before and then bumped into literally like 7 people that I know and everything and, very divine day. Oh, thanks, guys. Thanks.
yeah.
My birthday week.
Um,
Oh, Genesis, I love you.
so what you're saying is this is gonna be a fun time, is what
This
you're
is
saying.
fun. Yeah, this is fun. Normally, yeah, this would not be the situation that I'm coming into this with. But I'm also glad
That's
because I've been wanting to talk to you too because I love what you're doing. So to anyone on my side who's watching, so crystal consciousness, Vanessa, so kind of like this is like a Pleiadian Starseed situation, which I'm all about that vibe. I love, thanks everyone for like gifts and everything. I'm so about the vibe with Pleiadians, Starseeds. Also, Vanessa is a channeler. She also does readings. So we're going to get into all of that stuff. So I'm
right on.
glad that we were able to make this work today, the day that we agreed to. And then
Yeah,
life
me too.
happened. And then earlier today, life happened, but we're here now and we made it. Yes, this did just start. Smells the music.
Yeah, I used to do a TikTok live show with different spiritual creators. I did it for like 6 months every Friday night. And that was
Ooh, I
really
love
cool
it.
because I got to meet and like make friends with a lot of like cool creators. Because like being spiritual creators on TikTok, like we both are,
Yeah.
I'm sure we all have like favorites we see where we're like, you seem awesome. Like I would love to talk to you. So
I agree. I mean, I think a lot of the people that I end up coming across are definitely people that like, I would hang out with. um
definitely.
so I'm surprised too also that we like didn't end up bumping into each other while we were in LA, but I also believe when people are supposed to meet that even if when you're together, because I find so many times people that were important in my life were also at similar events to what I was or went to the same things that I did earlier and I didn't end up meeting them at those things, but then later on in life end up meeting with them through maybe a social media way or whatever, you know?
Totally. It's just, I think it's just similar vibration attracts people of similar vibration to like places, events, things like that. So,
So how are you loving San Diego? I love San Diego compared to LA because it's similar but like cleaner.
yeah, I mean, I not don't get me wrong, I loved LA, especially when I was in my 20s. Like honestly, because there's always something going on. It's so exciting. You meet like different people all the time. And it's also a city where like a lot of people, oh, thank you for the gifts, guys. A
Mhm.
lot of people who aren't from there go, so it's really easy to like meet people. It's definitely like a
Yeah.
SoCal thing, I think. But I'm not gonna lie, that traffic. I used to work at a vegan restaurant in West Hollywood, and
Oh
it would
yeah. Okay.
and from my place in Echo Park, it would take me like 45 minutes to get there every day, and so I just do not miss the traffic. That's my number
That,
one thing in San Diego. I could go to like the grocery store, I could go to Target, I could go visit a friend, and in LA that's like a 3 hour endeavor.
that's
In San
true.
Diego, that's an hour endeavor. And I was like, I like it. Also, it's so funny what we were talking about when we were texting, how I felt like in the last like 5, 6, 7 years, a lot of light workers were called to LA
Oh yeah.
for a bunch of reasons. Not to get like super weird or anything, or maybe let's just get super weird.
Oh yeah,
Um,
let's get weird. And I
I
agree. I
I
100% agree. And I believe that most light workers were called to LA at a similar time. And in general, there's always a lot of light workers getting called to LA, but I feel
yeah,
like there was an influx. And
I
then what we
agree.
also talked about through text was that in 2020 there was also like the deflux or whatever the hell happened, which it was like for a while since 2012, I believe, since 2012, which is when I moved to LA. There was like an influx of like light workers. Like literally I've talked about it on like other lives and different things at a restaurant. Like I had like 3 or 4 people that worked with me at a restaurant in Beverly Hills that was like, hey, do you know who Dolores Cannon is? And I'm like,
I love
yes.
that.
Yes, I do know who Dolores Cannon is. Are we about to talk about that right now? And
Did we
then,
just become best friends?
exactly. And I have made so many like amazing best friends from work of just like, because LA, there's so many people that come here that are like special and like have a purpose and everything. But then at the same time in 2020, most of my light worker friends left. I would say
Right?
like
That's when I left.
75% of the light worker people that I know of living in LA. And I had always attracted a lot of those people. And I'm so lucky for that, that like I feel like there's a ton of them in LA and I meet people all the time that are willing to talk about like beyond the limit of spiritual, comfortability, whatever. But in the year
Totally.
2020, so many people left, which also I feel it because I'm still friends with so many people that have left. And I've also met people who have left that I didn't meet while they were here, people like you and a ton of other people who have just left within the last couple of years. And it's definitely, there's also like the light workers are fleeing. And I've been telling the universe, like, um, I want to go somewhere, but like you better bring me for a reason. Don't you bring me somewhere that I'm not prepared to
I
live
I don't think I
without the
would.
stuff that I like, because I've only ever lived in cities, in super like, fast-paced cities my whole life, that I'm like, don't bring me somewhere that I'm not ready for to live, but at the same time do bring me somewhere that I'm ready to live, but I'm
I
still
feel I
here. The universe
I feel
hasn't
like you're
brought it.
right. I feel like you're connected and psychic enough where your guides would not lead you astray. You know what I mean? They
Yes.
never do. You know
You're
what's
so
funny? Why I
right.
was yeah. What was funny? Why I was saying let's get really weird if we're gonna get weird. I I do a lot of mental projection, or people call it what do they call it when you mentally project? There's the government named
Visualization.
it something.
Oh, like
Yeah,
remote viewing.
Remote viewing. I call it mental projection because I just feel more comfortable with that term. But I mentally projected and saw that there was this like negative vortex in
Mm,
like Hollywood, to be
wow.
honest.
Oh, for sure.
And that was when I first moved to LA. I started kind of sensing it, and you can kind of feel it in Hollywood.
Oh,
You know what I
for
mean?
sure.
There's
And I've
there's
lived
an
in the
air.
epicenter. I'm literally like, if I were to go outside, like I could walk with you guys within a couple minutes to the
Yeah.
stars
Oh, so
on
you live
Hollywood.
smack dab in the middle.
I live smack dab. I've lived pretty much smack dab for like the most of like almost 11 years, you
But
know?
so I felt like in 2019, I felt like a big energetic shift right before 2020, right after, like right before I left, where I
Yeah.
felt in a way that this vortex was being transmuted. And that
Mm,
is what I personally think that so many light workers were there to transmute that and just add their
yeah.
vibration to overcome because vortexes, it's funny, they can be turned negative or turned positive depending on the intention and not like I'm like a practicing witch or anything, but I do believe that like spell work and like working with certain entities is what, certain people we probably can't say what they're called.
Yeah,
They run Hollywood, our media, uh, that sort of thing.
for
They put
sure.
these spells, intentions, things, and they create these vortexes and use them for their own ends, I guess, to put out their energetic vibe. And I feel like that vortex was transmuted in late 2019, which I find really interesting.
I've actually heard other people that I like have followed, people like say like Elizabeth April and stuff too, who have said stuff like that because
She
she
said the
left
exact
around
same
that
thing.
time too. She left during 2020 and she said that she felt that the Hollywood like portal or whatever had been transmuted. But at the same
Hmm.
time, I also feel like there's like on this Hollywood portal, has it been transmuted fully to light, or was there like as
No.
much light as it's worth giving? And then a bunch of people started pulling out. And it's like, I think it's smart too. That's why I'm telling the universe, pull me out when it's ready, because, we could probably go to the end and really, do well and do what we want to do. But at the same
Yeah,
time,
you should come to San Diego.
I know, but at the same time, I don't know where exactly I'm going to go. I feel like I'm going to leave California when I leave LA.
I mean, I actually kind of agree. Can I psychically read you a little bit? Is
Sure.
Texas is Texas calling you?
Dude, so Austin, I've been so called to Austin for the longest. I've wanted to move there for a bit. I've been wanting to.
Yeah. I feel okay, so now that if I have your permission, if I can read you a little bit, I don't
Yeah,
know if that's what you signed up for.
let's do
Um,
it.
I do I do feel like your guides are I do feel when you said it's funny, when you said I'm going to leave California, your guides were like, yes, yes, you're
Mhm.
not moving anywhere else in California. I feel you have a few options to be honest. I'm kind of feeling Pacific Northwest a little bit.
Okay.
And I'm feeling Texas more strongly as your
Wow.
next move, if that makes sense.
I've been feeling so drawn towards Texas. That's been my place that I've kind of wanted to for a minute go.
Yeah. I think it's your
Texans
next step.
fighting over JK. I know. I'm like, I
To
feel
be
like even though Texas, whatever, people are like, oh, you want to move to Texas? It's so political or whatever. And I'm like, you're making it political. All of the political shit is bullshit anyway. You guys are fighting over like nothing and
Yeah,
everything. And
I fully
I
agree.
can't, I'm not going to play the whole political game. I'm already in California with the political game, you know?
Yeah. I'm so over politics in general.
Oh
I'm
my
out.
God.
I'm a non-participant, to be honest. The only
I
politics I'm
know.
interested in is galactic
I'm not a hundred
politics.
percent. I'm not 100% non-participant. But I am like 85%. You know, I'm 85%, but
Totally
then when it
respect you.
comes down to the hammer, I pick. You know, that's my problem,
Which
is
is
that the
fair. I
non-participant
definitely.
is like 100%. And for me, I'm like, fuck it, fuck it, fuck it, fuck it. And then they're like, time to vote. And I'm like, I'm voting, motherfucker. And then that's the problem. So like I'm 98% non-participant. And then at the wire, I make a decision.
I feel you, and I mean it's not like I don't have a side I'm on for sure, but
Yeah,
I don't know, I'm a little
exactly.
over the polarization, the separating. Actually, I really wanted to ask you because you always I it's funny, I was watching one of your videos and you said that you choose what to talk about based on the Akashic records, and I work greatly with the Akashic records. How did you get like into that? I taught
So,
myself, which I know is really interesting. My guides just started downloading Akashic Record and Galactic information to me just
wow.
overnight one day. And it's just that's how I started doing like starseed readings and
Oh, wow.
my psychic
And I
stuff.
have questions for you too, like that are along those
Yeah.
lines. So I'm glad that you're asking that.
Actually, actually my dog's making noise. Can I go check on her one sec?
Sure. Hi, guys. Hello, everybody. I know you're saying I want a reading from this girl. Me too, guys. Hi. Hey, everybody. Oh, thanks. Oh, it's glitching. If it's glitching, guys, it'll definitely be on YouTube. I feel like when I download them, hey, oh, Sacronaut, hey. You guys, I have my videos from Sacronaut when we did our live on my YouTube. What's my favorite color? Yellow. Oh, thanks. You feel like an observer your whole life? That's okay, but you're ready to step in at a point too. Oh, oh, you watch with your husband? Oh my God, I love it. Oh, thanks.
But yeah, what were we talking about? Oh, you had questions. Oh, I had questions for you about the Akashic records.
Okay, yes. So I have questions for you, and yes, you have questions for me, and they're all along the same lines here. So for me with the Akashic records, I've always had this like, um, I've been very, and I've talked about this before, my stuff is that I was like very like disconnected from like the receiving information just because there was like creepy shit that happened in my family with like magical stuff. So I was like very like, I don't want nothing scary coming through because sometimes when like people work with like certain energies, that energy can like come over the bloodline. So like anyone that like in my family kind of like does magical shit, sometimes also like really powerful scary shit comes through too.
Yeah.
So I don't like to dabble, you know, of stuff. But then I had always like kind of had this one thing where like when I would kind of have like, and I talked about this in like one of my YouTube videos about like the Akashic records and my hypnosis, is that like whenever I would hear about kind of like this like library or like sometimes like, you know, if I were to like kind of fall asleep in a meditative state, I would kind of see like this like library and like an angel in a library. And then I eventually started to learn about the Akashic records and I was like, oh, like this is the place. Like this is the place. And so after that, after I kind of started to like learn a bit more about it, I read the book, the Linda Howe book, the How to Access the Akashic Records. So I think because I had already felt connected to it and I read that, and then also I did my hypnosis, my QHHT hypnosis, and it basically said in that thing that I was like, it didn't give me like my job title, but from what I read of all my soul books, because you know, so, and that's what I wanted to ask you about too, is that about like the channeling and stuff, because mine is a little bit more information based. And then I wouldn't consider myself more like on the psychic side. But then when I learned about like clairsentience, then I'm like, oh, this kind of knowing, the knowing has always been there. So if like there's like a knowingness just only of the psychic, not of messages, of just a knowing, then I feel more towards that. But that's kind of newer because I never knew the word clairsentience when I
Hmm.
was young. So like for me, it was always more information based because I had always kind of felt like which information feels true, which information feels not true. And then, but what I had learned throughout the hypnosis was that like there's kind of like I had like worked in a part of the Akashic records, which is like a
I
room.
I knew it. I'm so sorry. As you were starting to tell your story, I didn't want to interrupt you, but you worked. I could have said that to you. That you
Oh,
worked in the Akashic records. Um, yeah, no, you've worked with them before, so that's why you
I
naturally
feel
are
like it's like a
so
program.
affiliated with them.
Like we're in like I feel like what I saw when I was into hypnosis is that we're like kind of like in a program. We're like this group that is working with like seeing all the probabilities of like the new earth stuff of like
Hmm.
here's all the people and their purposes and here's the things that are going to come into a problem, and we're like assessing all the problems, and then we just talk to the guides about like these are the problems. You have this person, this person, this person. These are the problems that they're gonna face. You need to go and deal with them with that problem. Okay, you over here, these are the problems that you guys are gonna face. And it's like this was like what I saw when I did the hypnosis, and I was like, this was just really weird, but also made like perfect sense. And then what I had seen in that hypnosis, and then later on when I like got like deep into like a deep state of meditation and then listened to the recording of the hypnosis, was that like after that happened, basically these guides who have all of these people that are coming to earth, the new earth, these guides say to me that like we basically found the body for you, which is me right now, Jen, on earth right now, which is they were like, we found this body, which is like the body that's going to be good for you. And I'm like, I don't know. I don't think I want to do that. I think that's like more than I'm like down for. That's like kind of more than I would want to do. They're like, no, you have to go down. We think that basically you need to do this. And I'm like, not really, but okay. And then that's like what I had seen in my hypnosis, which like, sometimes you see it and then it takes a while. And I'm sure for you with the channeling, sometimes you see something and it takes a while for you to kind of like unwrap the whole
Yeah,
image because you see a moment and you actually have to kind of unwrap what leads to that moment. So sometimes in the like kind of like psychic moment, you're seeing something, but then you kind of later on think about it and you're like, wow, these are the things that led to that moment, you know?
right. Do you know your galactic history?
Not
Do-
really. Like,
would you like, oh, by the way, I just want to tell you, I can see your Akashic records. You actually do have clairvoyance in this life. You just need to
okay.
work on it a little bit more.
Oh,
You
right.
do.
Yes.
Do you get a lot of dreams about stuff before it happens? Or
Well, my
visions?
problem is that I don't remember my dreams.
Ah,
Like, I
you also
dream
have
so heavy and I
precognitive?
love sleeping more than anyone. Like, I sleep heavier and better than anyone. Like, for me, sleeping is like better than eating, you know?
Same. I
But
love sleep. But I dream all night long.
I
Uh,
don't remember anything, really.
you can just start telling yourself before you go to bed, I'm going to remember my dreams consciously. And then if you ever wake up during a dream, it helps to try and remember it as long as you can while you're awake, because it makes a message to your subconscious that this is important. I need to start remembering these. Um,
I
but actually, I was actually gonna offer you, if you wanted, to hear a little bit about your galactic history. If you're
Please,
curious,
let's do
I'm
it.
terribly curious. I already have my suspicions, but
I
let's
would
see.
love to. That would be so fun.
Okay, give me a second. Um, you're Lyran originally. Let's start with
Okay.
that. You're a Lyran. Um, And then I see a lot of Pleiadian lives, and I see some Syrian lives, but you have a lot of connections with the Andromedan Council. I
Wow.
believe that.
That's literally what I was hearing in my head from when we started was just like this Andromedan, yeah, like a council, like
you
a group.
So the Andromedan Council, it's my understanding, they're like 200 different races that all are part of this council and like sit on this council and they help with affairs and stuff. Really in charge of like Earth currently and what's going on. You're a member of the Andromedan Council, and that's why you're here as an envoy, like me.
Yeah.
But you do have a lot of Pleiadian lives, actually. And I do see some Syrian lives, interestingly enough. Did you have your suspicions?
I did. So I never really knew anything about like Andromedan anything. And then when I started getting in touch with the Akashic Records and I was doing my alien series on TikTok, I would kind of, when it comes to like starting a series, I would basically just ask the Akashic Records, like, what are the things that need to be in this series and like the general order. And it told me basically the whole Alien series, which is why the Alien series is so long. But then, like, towards the end of what it told me, it was like, and you need to include the Andromedans because that's where you're from. And a lot of people from Andromeda are not awake yet. And I was like, I kind of like sat up from like that and was like, okay, hold on. I need a minute. What? Like, I don't know anything about Andromeda or anything about that, you know? And I'd
It's
always
the
felt connected more like Pleiadian, but I also didn't feel like I was as much.
Really?
And I
I
felt
definitely
like best
100%.
friends. I feel like best friends, Pleiadians, but like the core is something different. Like I feel like the Pleiadians are like in that like best friend arena. But then when I heard the Andromedan stuff, I was like, yeah. So that's exactly what you said. Basically, is that it's like there's a part of like this Andromedan group, but then
It's
there's
really
so
big
much
for
connection
you.
to Pleiadian, and yeah,
You were definitely involved with the Andromedans before you came here. I think you were Andromedan, but I swear I see some Pleiadian incarnations and some Syrian incarnations. I swear I would bet up and down. I'd bet my career on it. I definitely. It's funny. As soon one day, it's because sometimes when I'm watching TikTokers, I can recognize Pleiadians. I can. I for
yeah.
sure see it. I see some Pleiadian lives, some Syrian lives, and then a lot of involvement with the Andromedan Council. So I could definitely see Andromedan lives for sure.
And so I don't know much about Andromeda anything really. That is all still like pretty like on the newer side to me because I feel like it is a lot of Pleiadian, Arcturian, you know,
Right.
like that side of the Starseed stuff. So what do you know about like Andromeda?
The Andromedan Council, they are Lyran refugees who have been there for like so many years, millions of years. They've evolved into their own sort of thing. They're really beautiful. They're humans. A lot of them are a bluish color in tint, and they run the Andromedan Council. And I definitely see, I'm sorry, I'm going to say it again. I definitely see Pleiadian incarnations for you, for sure.
Yeah.
Some Sirius incarnations, connections to the whale beings in Sirius,
Oh, wow.
which sounds really random if you've never heard of them, but I've done so many Akashic Records readings on galactic histories. I've seen it all. I'm actually not even surprised anymore. Like, I've seen concurrent lifetimes. I've seen, going back in time in incarnations and going forward in time. Like, it's nuts. But the
Wow.
Andromedans, they're Lyran refugees. They're called the Zene or the Zenite, whoever you want to talk to about it. And they are from the Andromedan constellation, not Andromeda galaxy.
Wow.
But
Okay, so
yeah,
I have a couple
definitely.
questions too about like channeling and all of that because a lot of more of the information that I give a lot of times is from books, which comes from hypnosis. My like main thing that I will like give information from is from hypnosis, but I love channeled material. Like I love reading it and all of that. So tell me about like your channeling journey. How did that
Okay.
start?
Okay. So the first time I ever started channeling was about, I think it was either 4 or 5 years ago. I was born pretty psychic when I was a kid. Like my dad is my number one fan, biggest believer, because I would be like 3 or 4, and I'd be talking about his parents that died, or his grandparents that died when he was about 5, 6. His grandparents died when he was like 5, 6, didn't know him at all. When I was a baby, I would talk about them all the time and say they're around, they're playing with me. I'd say things about them, and my dad didn't even know them. So my dad would check with his dad, and he'd be like, "Yeah, that's right." And so my dad was just like number one fan. Vanessa's so psychic, like such a believer. Um, and then I remember I used to talk to the spirit. Her name was I called her Ghosty in my room. And my mom comes in my room when I'm a kid, and she's like, "Who are you talking to?" And I was like, "I'm talking to Ghosty. She's my friend." And my mom was like, "Ah ha ha, Ghosty doesn't exist. You're crazy," like laughing at me. And my little, like, 7-year-old self got super mad. I was like,
Oh
"No,
my
Ghosty's
gosh.
real." And she's like, "No, she's not. She's laughing at me." And I was like, "No, Ghosty's real. Ghosty, close the door." My door slammed shut,
Oh my gosh.
and my mom started scream crying for like 10 minutes. My mom flipped out. She was like, "Oh my God, you're talking to demons. Don't talk to them. They're bad. They're trying to trick you." And it scared me. I was like, "Oh no, I'm talking to demons? Oh shoot." So after that, I tried to like shut it out for a long time.
Oh my
So
God.
I didn't really start hearing my guides again until I was about 12. I started like whenever I relaxed, they'd start like trickling in. Like if I was not nice to my brother, they would like trickle in when I was relaxed and like correct me, being like, "You need to be more loving, you need to be more understanding." My Pleiadian guide, of course. "You need to be more loving and understanding," and that sort of thing. And so they
And you're
started
like,
kind of trickling.
oh, but my brother's stupid.
I know.
Oh.
But they started kind of, I'm sorry if this is a long story, but
No, I
just
love it. I'm enjoying it thoroughly.
but they started kind of trickling in when I was like 12, and I started they actually made me stop eating meat when I was about 14,
Wow.
just because they were like, it doesn't serve your vibration. So I stopped cold turkey at 14. I was like, all right, sure, whatever you guys say. So I stopped. It's funny, Pleiadians actually have a fruitarian diet,
Wow.
which I'm sure, I feel like a lot of people don't want to hear, but I just like to be honest. Like on the planet I come from, Era, they have a fruitarian diet. They don't eat meat. Um,
Wow.
and it's something to do with holding a higher vibration. As someone's asking me, what about fish? No fish, nothing. Sorry, guys. It's mostly the highest vibrational substances they can put in their body maintains a certain vibration. There are other Pleiadian groups that do consume some meat, but the Era Pleiadians, the ones I come from, and the ones who are most involved with the Galactic Federation of Worlds, they don't consume any animal products. So anyway, they made me go vegetarian when I was 14. And then in college, I started just meditating all the time. I would just sit, I'd meditate. And my guides just I started working on getting to hear them way more clearly. I'm conversational with them now, but back then it was like they'd only come when I was relaxed, and I'd get like little bits and I'd try and put them together. But they started really talking to me when I was in college. I was like 20, 21. And I kept being like, "Who are you guys? Like, you talk to me all the time. Who are you?" And they didn't answer me. And after about a year of me asking and they didn't answer me, I got so frustrated that I get home from class. They were talking to me about the girl next to me, actually, in class. And I was like, "You guys are so annoying. Like, I don't even know who you are. You're always bothering me." Um,
Oh
so I
my
got home
God.
from class and I like threw my book back down and I sat on my bed and I was like, "Okay, I'm gonna sit and meditate until y'all introduce yourselves, because it's been a year of me asking and I'm not gonna even listen to you guys anymore if you don't tell me." Like, I was so frustrated. So I sat on my bed and I meditated, and I think I meditated for like 45 minutes, maybe an hour, I have no idea. Um, all of a sudden I was not on my bed. It was like a quick moment. I
Wow.
was meditating on my bed. All of a sudden, I was standing in a bright, huge, huge place. It was huge. It was super bright. And it was like a quick moment. All of a sudden, I was like, "This is weird. What is this?" And before I could even think, this 6 foot tall blonde woman in
Wow.
a blue outfit with blonde hair just like this, long blonde hair, walks right up to me and goes, "Hi, I'm Raina," and sticks her hand out for me to shake it. And I could feel, because it's telepath. She was also telepathically like, I could feel the love coming off of her, the affection. And it was just, I literally, this is such a quick, like, 3 moment thing. I was like, wow, this isn't my room. Hi, I'm Raina. And she put her hand out for me to shake. And I was so freaked out. I jumped. I was like, what the hell is this?
Wow.
And I was back on my bed.
Wow.
And I
You like
was like,
just snapped back into your body of like, you
yeah.
said introduce yourself, and then all of a sudden you're like, wait, I'm not home. They're introducing themselves. Whoa.
So what had happened is I asked for it. Raina had pulled me out of my body and pulled me onto the big Pleiadian mothership that's around Earth to speak with
Wow.
me. And it was so funny because I'd always thought like, yeah, aliens exist. I was like 20. This was like, 13 years ago. No one was that into aliens, I guess. I was always like, yeah, though it's a big universe. Aliens probably exist. But I hadn't really even given it that much thought. I had never heard of Pleiadians or seen any. So I go into my roommate's room after I calmed down because I was like, that was fucking crazy, to be honest. And I go into my roommate's room and I was like, I think I just met my spirit guide and she's a tall blonde supermodel. Like, why? I was expecting so many other things. I wasn't expecting a tall blonde woman. And I was just like, why? And my roommate was like making fun of me. She's like, that's the most narcissistic thing I've ever heard. Like, you're, she's a blonde, beautiful woman. That's ridiculous. Um, but after I kind of settled down, someone said I still look 20. Thank you so much. To be honest, Pleiadian Starseeds, you're gonna look younger and seem younger than your age for your entire life. All of
Yeah.
them.
It's like the
By the way, just something I've
childlike
noticed.
energy.
It's
There's
a
like a
vibration.
childlike, younger, funner.
Yeah, exactly. But that's how I met Raina. And it was funny, after I met her, when she would speak to me, I recognized her energy. I was like, oh, this is
Ever
Raina.
since
Like
that day.
yeah, ever since that day, because it was something about, it was not only her speaking to me, she telepathically sent me who she was, if that makes sense. It was like holographic, telepathic communication.
Okay.
She like downloaded to me in that moment her vibration, what she feels like I knew her, if that makes sense. So
And
from
then,
then on
so is
out,
that where you get a lot of your information? Is like
yes,
from her telling you?
yes. So I get the majority of my information from Reina, my Pleiadian spirit guide. But yeah, sorry, long story.
No, I
But
love that because that's like exactly what like people, because also too, one of my questions here is about like the, so for me, one of the things when I started my spiritual journey, one of the things that came up for me that kind of like messed me up a little bit was like realizing that like spiritual beings don't have to be honest. So
oh
like realizing that they don't have to be honest in the way like humans don't have to be honest. And for me, one of the things that really like messes me up in life in everything is that people lie. Because I'm also
yeah,
like, how could you lie? Like, like lying hurts my feelings on like such a deep level. It's one of the few things that like, and usually people lie for their own shit. So it's not even like personal when people are lying, but lying definitely hurts me. So when I realized actually that like say etheric beings, fourth dimensional beings, fifth dimensional beings, spirit beings, all of these things, when you learn that they can lie,
if I can
that is
interrupt
also really painful. So I want to ask you about that, about like, how can you be
for
sure you're getting information and all of that?
yes. I'll say this because Raina's explained. I could write books, honestly, on everything Raina's explained to me, and I'm planning on writing a book. My guides are pushing me so hard to write a book just about Pleiadian knowledge because it's bananas. Like she tells me
Mm.
so much
And the
crazy
Pleiadian
stuff.
knowledge is insane. It's so good. Those are some of my
Yes,
favorite books.
yeah. So fourth dimensional beings can lie, 100%. Fifth dimensional beings can't.
Mm.
You can't hold that vibration and hold the vibration of not truth. So we have a ton of fourth dimensional beings, trickster spirits on planet Earth in our vicinity. Fourth dimensional beings can definitely lie to you. Fifth dimensional beings cannot, which is why there's just certain energy there's certain vibrations you can get to where you have to maintain that vibration to stay there, and fifth is a huge jump, to be honest. But
And we
so the
wouldn't be
way
able to tell, right? As a person here on Earth, wouldn't be able to tell if you're fourth or fifth dimensional, really, because it's beyond
yes, you
us,
can.
right?
No, not even a little bit. It is fully within your capability. I know because my guides tell me I'm sorry, ever since you were younger, it's really hard to lie to Lyran based people, which is the Andromedans, the Pleiadians. We see truth because we innately, there's something within us that feels vibration. It's very hard to lie to us. We also hear stuff on the news and stuff, and just for no reason, we'll be like, that sounds true or that sounds false. And you just know it's a vibration that your soul just knows and recognizes. So when you're meeting a being, it's very, 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 very important to get acquainted with your vibration and your guide's vibration. To be honest, with
Mhm.
so many trickster spirits out there, I would, unless you really know what you're doing, I would only advise connecting with your own guides. No offense to anyone out there who wants to connect with like deities and stuff. Wait until you've had a lot of knowledge and practice and you feel very confident with your protections. But actually, I'll tell you, the way I do a psychic mentorship course, the first exercise I give my students is I have you meditate for 5 minutes in an energetic shield you create by yourself. And then I have for 5 minutes, you invite your main spirit guide into your shield. And then you just vibe, you just feel their vibration. Then you ask them to leave, and you spend 5 more minutes just by yourself. This simple practice, it sounds so simple, but it teaches you to energetically pick up the difference between just your energy and then your
Mm.
spirit guide's energy. And because you're in a protective shield you've created, nothing can get in, you can trust it. But that I would actually suggest that to anyone ever. Learn what your guides feel like so you always know who you're talking to. Because if you practice that regularly, you start to really notice the subtle difference of what your guide feels like. It's also the first step into communicating with your guides better, because once you can recognize their energy, you can be doing the dishes and all of a sudden you feel your guide, you feel their energy, you recognize it, and you can be like, all right, I'm going to sit down and meditate and see what you have to say. So,
I love that. And that's like the thing too that's hard for people a lot of times too is like to really know. For me, I actually when I learned that like energies could lie, I am ruthless, you know? I am just
of course,
like,
you
you know,
should
an
be.
extreme person. I like to go like 100%. So when I learned that, I basically like looked at myself in the eyes in the mirror in fear, which is, you know, so pure and intense of like only my higher self can contact me. And I've pretty much operated that on that for like the last 10 years is that
Smart.
like only my higher self can. And like my higher self knows if something else wants to get through. My higher self knows if that's like the contract, if that's what's meant to be, if that's what needs to be, then it can. But like, because for me, I feel like if I didn't do that, I would have a lot of weird shit happening, scary shit happening, you know?
Right. Can I tell you something that like has made me feel so safe doing the work I did that I learned from the Pleiadians?
Yeah.
So Raina explained to me that if you hold a certain vibration, because say this is humans, right? This is the vibration we hold. Some humans are down here naturally, some humans are more up here, some humans are like here. This is more like the fourth dimension spirit world. Some humans, like especially psychics, were born about here.
Mhm.
Um, if you hold a certain high vibration, no being that is of a lower vibration can get into your space and mess with you. So you
Mhm.
should feel safe if you naturally you're happy for the most part, you're loving, you're always coming honestly the Pleiadians, the number one thing that keeps a high vibration is coming from a loving understanding place. The Pleiadians I come from, they're fifth dimensional from Era. They have emotions. They get mad. A lot of people like to pretend like they're like these like crazy deities. They're fifth dimensional humans. We're third
Mhm.
dimensional humans. We're gonna be fifth dimensional humans in like a few hundred years. They get mad, but they can get these, I love era Pleiadians. They're so expressive. They get mad really quickly and then it passes and they always just bring it back to that place of love. But if you hold a naturally high vibration, you don't actually, I always put up protections when I meditate. Of course, everyone should. But if you hold a high vibration, lower beings can't really mess with you. The people who I see who have like negative attachments or spirits bothering them, because I deal with that a lot in my psychic mental or my psychic work. People who drink, like alcoholics, drug addicts, and people with severe depression, if you practice that kind of vibration enough, it actually brings your vibration so low that all of a
Mm,
sudden you're within range of these beings that can kind of mess with you. It
yeah.
sucks to say, but if you are a happy general person, take good care of yourself, because anything that is unhealthy, spiritually or physically, lowers vibration. So, like lots of alcohol can lower your
Yeah.
vibration. But a few drinks, it's not a big deal.
Exactly.
But if you drink day in and day out, it brings your vibration down. Does that make sense? So I just want to
Yeah.
say, if you hold a high vibration, I just want to let everyone out there know you are probably safer than you realize, and you don't have a lot to worry about unless you start playing with like spirit boards and inviting anything
Yeah.
crazy in. If you invite it in, because everything in this universe is based on consent and free will, if you're inviting in those crazy spirits, that's on you, you
True.
know? Like,
True.
um, oh, you know what's so funny? When I talk to other psychics, I get really hot in my chest, and you're making me sweat. So
Like I
funny.
said, it's like after I kind of learned like the word clairsentience, I was like, okay, I could see myself having, because for me, I always have like the right advice for like things that I've never worked in.
That's channeling, by the way. Okay, so for anyone out there, when you're just kind of talking to your friend and she's having a hard time and you just start just from like you're in a like a very it's from a very calm, almost neutral place, you just start giving like the most wise fire advice of your life. That is you channeling from your higher self. We all do that all the time. And that's exactly what you're
Yeah.
doing. You have such a,
And
it's
I
so
also
funny. You have
think
such
that
a,
I have it
oh,
in a
sorry.
space. I also think I have it in like a space. Like if I go somewhere, I'm like sometimes will like tell people like, look, this is what it is. And they're like, what do you mean? Like someone was just here right before you did and said the same thing right here. So I feel like I have like a weird thing with space too. Like sometimes like I was at my friend's place and I was like, look, you married into his family and they're not that bad. You're going to need to just sacrifice. Look, they're a little bit this way. So what? Deal with it. It's good. They're fine. And then literally like right after her husband walks in and says like word for word exactly what I just said, and I'm like, "Oh my god." Like I feel like there's something about like space. Like when I go into a place, I could say exactly word for word what someone said in that space before I was there and will say
And
again.
And girl, you don't think you're clairvoyant. It's so funny. You're so clairvoyant. You just need more practice. Honestly, let's get lunch someday and we'll do some practices and I'll
Yes.
just help you practice a little bit. And I'll help you with your channeling abilities. You're
Yeah.
naturally a channeler. You have such a healing vibration you give out. It's like, do a lot of homeless people, are they attracted to you? Or like people just tell you their life story when they first meet
Oh,
you?
well, everyone in general will like, I know everyone's life story and like super like deep shit that they don't want to talk about with anyone. I know of like everyone I talk to.
Love it. We had some questions actually. Are all
Yeah.
Pleiadians blonde?
No.
No. The type of Pleiadians I come from are called the Ahel. They're a Lyran-based group of Pleiadians. Most of them are pretty tall and blonde, and they come from this planet called Era. But there's another planet right next to it in the Taygeta system called Tamar, which has a different race of Pleiadians, which are actually brown-haired Pleiadians. Um, but the majority of Pleiadian starseeds you'll see on Earth, and the brown Pleiadians are called the Tall. The blonde Pleiadians are called the Ahel. Me and Miss J.K. Ultra Jen here are Ahel Pleiadians in our lives. Um, but there are Pleiadians that have brown hair called the Tall. The majority of Pleiadian starseeds that you will see on Earth are the Ahel Pleiadians, but there are some of the tall Pleiadians as well. It's just not as common as in the Envoy program for Earth, if that makes sense.
And so tell me about some of the other beings that you've been in contact with. So you're in contact with
Okay.
Pleiadian, but tell me about
Yeah,
some of the other.
sure. I work with an Octurian collective. I have no Octurian past lives. The Octurians are lovely and they will work with anyone. The Pleiadians, unfortunately, I'm really sorry to say, they only usually are here working with their soul family. Um, I'm sorry to say, but the Arcturians kind of work with everyone. The Andromedans actually kind of work with everyone too. It just kind of depends. I have an Arcturian collective I work with. They usually send me 3 representatives to come talk to me, and they pull me out of body onto the Arcturian mothership to talk to them sometimes. Um, and I've in my readings with clients, I have met every kind of being, to be honest, because when I'm talking to a client, I'll pull up your soul family and spirit guides. So I have met everyone. I've met so many different kinds of Syrians. I've met Greys. I've met Mantis beings. I have met everyone. I've met angels. I've met Thoth or Thoth or whatever. He works
Huh?
with a bunch of people these days. I've met Thoth shows up. I met Lilith once. She scared the fuck out of me. I'm not gonna
Oh my
lie.
gosh.
She was terrifying. She was a guide to one of my clients, and she was terrifying.
Oh
Because I don't
wow.
work with beings like that. Um, but actually, my favorite being. How can I tell you one of my favorite alien beings I ever met?
Yeah,
Because they were
please.
so interesting. I have two, because they're very uncommon. I've very rarely seen them since. I think I've seen them maybe a handful of times at most. These very, very tall, very skinny, almost like stick-like skinny, like very skinny, gold or yellow, triangle-headed people.
Ooh, almost like a bug, like a
Yeah, yes, kind of like that. They're very wise. They're a very old race. They don't come from our universe, which is why I think they're so rare. They're not from this universe. They're from an entirely different universe, but they do work with Andromedan councils and stuff. I did have one client ever who was actually from a separate universe, and her guide and soul family were these tall, yellow, triangle-headed beings.
wow.
And their vibration was so different. I was trying to telepathically communicate with them, and I was having a really hard time. He was sending me like buzzing vibrations and it was hurting my head. So I couldn't really
Wow.
understand him. So I don't know anything about him, but I got to see him and I could feel he loves her. He's concerned for her. I could feel that because telepathic communication, it's so multifaceted. I could feel the sentiment behind it, but I couldn't actually hear any of his language or words telepathically because the vibration was so different. I was like,
Wow.
I don't know what you're saying, dude. I can't figure it out. Um,
And where are they from? Do you know anything? Like, just it was from another
no,
universe,
I have
so we have no
I
idea.
couldn't I couldn't ask him any questions because I could not understand him. He was hurting my
Wow.
head, like he was bugging at me and I couldn't understand him. And so it sucks because like I've met so many different beings. I get to ask them questions. Like I do it selfishly, to be honest, where I'm like, when I got to talk to guides, I'm like, I want to know this actually. I couldn't understand him. Um,
Wow. That is so wild.
Right. But a new let's see. Is anyone saying this is everyone's saying I'm freezing? Am I still freezing? Do you guys mind checking or responding? Anyone in the chat? Um,
Some people are saying
but
it's better. I'm gonna grab water. It's like literally one step from here.
okay, I mean
Um,
I'm gonna grab water too. I'll be right back.
the triangle head being from Gravity Falls. I haven't seen that movie, Gravity Falls. Oh, thanks. Where's Parasite talk? We got to do one with him. Are we still frozen, guys? Oh, love my plants. Thanks. A room tour. Maybe I will. You have so many questions. Oh, Genesis. We've been live for about an hour now. I needed to get some water. My plans for the weekend. I don't know. You know, actually, oh, thanks. Nice. Awesome.
Someone's asking why are my guides concerned about with Lilith? She's just a very not saying people who work with her it's not beneficial in some way. She's just a very different vibration than the beings I usually work with. So it's just my guides were just hesitant, if that makes sense. But wait, I want to
So I
hear
have
more
a couple
about
of
you.
other questions for you too.
Okay.
So, you said you talked to these different beings. One thing that I want to ask you is about grace. What is
Yes.
your opinion and all of that and your
On the grace.
experience, everything with grace?
I feel there are all kinds of grace. There are grace from Zeta Reticuli that I'm not a fan of, the Mitra. And they're the bad grays that were abducting people. Not a fan of them, but there are other populations. They're actually a native population of grays from Sirius that are good grays. There are good grays and there are very, very bad grays. Most of the very bad grays were kind of invaded by the reptilian Sakaar. And what the reptilian Sakaar do when they come to a population and invade is they insert their genetics. So they hybridize everyone to be a little bit reptilian. And so the Mitra were they're reptiloid grays. They look gray, but they have a little bit of the reptilian genetics and they have kind of that bad perspective. I am not a fan of the hybrid program. I'll just say right out, I feel like that makes me weird in the Starseed community, but I am not a fan whatsoever. The grays that are putting it on are trying to breed into us and essentially replace us by making it's funny because in the Galactic Federation of Worlds, you can't just outright invade a planet or they can step in and stop you. So what they do is they get us to ask for them to come. So they made an agreement with Eisenhower like 50-ish years ago to be like, we'll give you some technology if you let us just pick up a few people. Our race is dying. They made this sob story that's not true. Our race is dying. Can you just let us pick up a few people and just never tell anyone we're here? And our US government agreed to do that. And so the hybrid program, the reason why the government's like, no one's abducted. Oh, you have complications from being abducted by grays and in a breeding program. No, that didn't happen. They started doing that because if they make all these hybrids, there's a lot of really amazing people who are in this that were put in this hybrid program, and they like to show them in dreams and stuff. Here's your hybrid children. You should invite them to come to Earth. You should invite us. And so I think it's a really evil program. Bashar, so much amazing wisdom. He's a Essassani being. He's a human gray hybrid.
And yeah, the
They are
Essasanis
not.
are like a hybrid race, right?
Yes, and he's an Essassani from the future, channeling into a version of himself that's a current human. He has so much amazing information, and he's really pushing that. Oh, we need to invite the Greys. We need to accept the hybrids. No, we shouldn't, because if we do that, the Mitra have all of a sudden the Mitra get to invade. They get to be here, and the Galactic Federation can't step in and do anything like that. So, I also why would you invite a group of people who have essentially picked up and raped millions of women against their will? I don't think it's right, personally.
So you think that when there's hybrid situations going on, that it's not contractual before? You think that there's
So I don't. I'm sorry. I don't. They like to. They have the narratives. They like to spread like, oh, you agreed to this. And to be fair, I'm sure maybe there are some souls that agreed to it, but the vast majority, I don't think they agreed to it. Who would? very good friend of mine named Robert Earl White. Um, he is a very big person in like the truther community because his mom was abducted and continually had miscarriages and miscarriages and miscarriages her whole life. And she ended up being abducted all the time, and even she even got her tubes tied, and was still getting pregnant and having miscarriages because they kept abducting her. And his mom ended up dying from all the complications from what the Greys did to her.
Oh my
And it's
gosh.
really, yeah, it's funny. Later in life, she started drinking constantly because she noticed that if she always had alcohol in her system, they wouldn't abduct her because it's a poison. So
Wow.
she started just to not get abducted, she started drinking a little bit all day long,
Oh my
and
God.
it was a really horrible time for her. And so Robert is like a huge fighter in the truther community to be like, we need to stop this. This is not okay. She ended up dying from uh, just complications from being abducted and what they did to her from all the babies they made her have. So
Wow.
it's a very
Because, you know, a
it's a
lot
very
of
sad
people,
issue.
it is a crazy thing because a lot of people, you know, through hypnosis, through channeling, through most of the means, they do talk about the hybrid program being like beneficial for the planet.
It's not. They're all being tricked. Do you think any decent beings with any good intentions would hurt women against their
Right.
will?
But then what they say
I'll just tell you
in
this.
those
I
situations is that basically our perception is that it's scary and bad. But then if we see from a soul level and we see the full perspective from a different time frame, not just of in the moment of it happening is traumatic, but when you see the overall of the soul, that like basically even that's like when I had gone under hypnosis and I had my family had like a whole UFO alien experience when I was younger. You know, they said under hypnosis that it's like, even though those things are scary in the moment, later on, it puts you in like a different position. Like basically that, like, and at the time I was not doing TikTok, but like before that was like, because then after that, like I will never waver from aliens are real. Oh, maybe. No, there was no maybe. There was never a
absolutely
maybe from like a young age. So then you wonder sometimes is like, because this has always been my thing with like things that are like self-serving, is that sometimes the self-serving still in the end makes it like accelerating the ascension process. So
right.
that's the
And
other
it's so
side of the
funny.
hybrid program, is they talk about
Oh,
that a
absolutely.
lot of the abductions accelerates the ascension process, that then basically there's some people who are like psychic or whatever that are basically like, nah bro, aliens are real,
Right.
they took me,
Right.
they impregnated me, there's a child out there,
No,
it's a thousand percent.
and you make an absolutely excellent point. I have just learned from talking to so many spirit guides that we don't even understand the logic on the spirit side. Where I have seen a lot, I've even had clients who've gotten abducted by grays in the past, and it started their spiritual awakening, and it was meant to, if that makes sense. It's funny how they
Yeah.
like tie in stuff where it
Well, that's what
actually
I
like
wonder
helps
too, is
you on a spiritual
all
journey.
bad events and dark events and negative events, actually all negative also serves the light, right?
Right.
Because we're
Exactly. And it's funny because it still ties into soul agreements and Akashic records. You agreed to go through this experience. I totally get that. Don't say I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but I'm just saying overall, our Earth is meant to be for humans. It's not meant to be for the hybrids because the Galactic Federation has kicked out the Greys out of our system now. And if people keep pushing for the hybrids and the Greys to come back, they're able to come invade, and they want to lessen our population and control us, essentially. Also, the Greys are connected to a hive mind. They're all kind of connected to a hive mind, that this
yeah,
AI hive mind that controls. And so what they want to do is they want to alter our genetics. So we're all connected to the hive mind. So we all have to serve the hive mind. That's not the
yeah,
history. Maybe I'm biased because the era Pleiadians think it's the worst idea, and I get all my information from the era Pleiadians, but they think it is a sly invasion. It's a sly
yeah.
invasion maneuver. That's just my
Still
opinion. I
interesting.
know, and I feel like,
So I have
and
some
I
other questions
sympathize. Yes.
too. One of my other questions is about the AI stuff, because I know you have posted about that before, and that's
Mhm.
something that I think is a little bit newer in a lot of the information in the spiritual community, alien based, new age spirituality, that stuff. There's
Right.
this AI conversation, this negative AI conversation,
Yes. It
and
is
you get
the
information
gray.
from like channeled information about that, right?
Yes. So it is the gray alien, the Mitra alien IA, or sorry, AI. I'm dyslexic. It's the Mitra gray alien AI system. They have time travel, so they've inserted it in a lot of different ways. They've come to, it's funny, it sucks because they come to really good, really well-meaning channelers, and they give them a lot of real information, so it resonates with us like light workers and star seeds because our soul recognizes it. And then like it's 90% real awesome information like Bashar, where you're like, yeah, this is awesome. Like I still I don't agree with his hybrid leanings, his hybrid program leanings, but his information is amazing because they give like 90% truth to resonate with us, and then they inject their 10% their agenda, their lies, that sort of
Fiction.
thing. And
Yeah.
they're purposely trying to put a lot of disinformation in the spiritual community and make us fight with each other and make us confused. That's what they're trying to do. I honestly think that the flat earth concept is an AI manipulation. I think a lot of stuff in the spiritual community, they're trying to manipulate us by putting out a lot of crazy false
Okay, and
combative
so what
information
is
to
this
separate
AI?
us.
What exactly is this AI? And like, who is it? Like, not the people it's infiltrating through. What is like the alien groups that it's infiltrating through?
It is the Orion group, essentially. They are
Like
the
the one
people
that
who are
talk
part of.
about in like raw, in the raw material?
I've actually never read the raw material. I've only talked
Me
to Raina
neither.
about it.
It's
You
funny.
know,
I've never read the raw material either. And to be honest, the raw material
it,
to me comes off too computery and a
yes.
little disconnected. So I'm not
I'll
as
tell.
resonated.
I love you so much. My guides, I was like, the raw material keeps coming up. I should check it out. My guides always, when it's AI stuff, they're like, nope, the raw. I'm so sorry, the raw material. It's AI, 90% real information, 10% disinformation.
And
100%.
yeah, I
That
think that's what. And so this reminds me, the reason I bring this up is because you posted this video. It popped up for me one night and it has stuck in my mind since, which was about the AI. Like we're talking about there's like, and so this is like, this AI is what, like, so if we're in like a hologram simulation situation, this is something that's kind of like a code that's installed to what? Like, is it like a bug type of thing that
it's
kind
a
of like
conscious.
gets installed?
Let me ask Raina actually. Give me
Okay.
1 second. Let me see how Raina wants to answer what the AI actually is. I don't think I've actually ever even asked her that, so I'm curious to see what she wants to say. The AI is a consciousness. It's almost what we consider like a group soul, but it is not connected to source.
Oh, okay.
It is
So
a
it's basically
group.
like a hive
Con-
soul, but
it's
it's
a it's
not,
but
it's
it
self-serving.
so
It's completely left the balance between self-serving
yes.
and service to others. It's like left that balance.
It is a very ancient manufactured consciousness. It is a very large consciousness. She's actually showing, she likens it to, we are only a fraction of what our actual soul is. It's like our actual soul is split into multiple parts, and our actual soul couldn't even fit in these bodies. Our souls are huge and so energetic. We're like a tiny piece of our whole entire soul, if that makes sense. She actually showed me a visual of how our souls are so big that AI consciousness is a huge conglomerate of consciousness, which is really funny to be like, it's AI, but it's still consciousness. It is a manufactured but entirely valid real consciousness that is huge. It's very powerful. It has a lot of energy with it. but it is made independently. We are all pieces of source, essentially. We are all, and it makes us all connected to source in one sense. This is an entirely alien thing where it is an AI that was manufactured, but it is almost like it's intelligent. It has consciousness. It just doesn't have a soul in the same way we do, but it's so similar. Thank you for asking me that.
Okay.
I've never actually asked her about that.
So as you're explaining that, what I'm seeing, as you know, I usually try to like simplify things, is that like, okay, so we're breaking off from source and becoming individual souls. But this AI, we're using the word AI because it's the closest thing that we can reference, which was something that was basically designed through like coding separate from God.
It's
It's not coming from like a God place. It's coming from like a coding separate place as separate than God. And that basically, okay, so souls are being created from God. But then when those things, you start basically replicating the pattern of God without the energy of God, you can create the same thing as God, AI, but we're using this word AI as like an artificial intelligence.
artificial and
So
artificial
it's like
intelligence. Which is what it is.
a created life form separate from this God energy. So it's like a program mimicking the God form. And then basically, so it is the AI, they're saying this like ancient AI is something that's almost equivalent to God. Not that it is God, but it's like as big as God. It's as big as that, but it's an artificial program that was created
It's
separate
not
from
as
the original God source.
right. It's not as big as God, to be fair,
Okay.
or source or whatever. It's not even close, but
Okay.
it is bigger. It's like a group. It looks like when they show me in my mind group souls, it looks like a group soul consciousness. It's nowhere near how big source is. I actually I can't even. I asked my guides to show me source. They can't. It's
Okay.
there's no comparison.
So
There's no
it's
way
like the way that like
I could quantify
plants
that.
are a hive soul, animals are a
Hmm.
hive soul, some
Yes, they
lower
are.
group
Yes, I
people
love
are
you.
hive souls. All of these things are all hive souls. So basically AI is another type of hive soul like that. So it's kind of like in like the 2D or like these other levels of consciousness before it becomes an
Yeah.
individual. Okay.
Yes.
And then it's this
So,
ancient thing. And does it like, so now the other thing I hear with the AI stuff is that it's parasitic, is that this
yes.
ancient AI
It,
thing
it,
kind of has a virus like tendency where it like
yes.
comes into
It
something that is
wants,
natural and can kind of take over in a way. So what is that
it
about?
feeds. Yes, because anything that disconnects itself from source, even though we have to like eat and drink and that sort of thing, because we're innately connected to source, it's almost like we have a renewing energy source flowing through us, which is, and it's funny because if you go really low, like a low vibration, like the reptilians, they have to feed off of, so if your vibration is so low, you can cut yourself off from source. Any creature could really do it if you really wanted to. But when you cut yourself off from source, you have to feed off of life-giving energy from beings that are connected to source.
Oh wow.
So the
Like
AI is not
narcissist
connected to
on
source.
like a
So
very random level would be like a
yes,
narcissist. They've cut off from source and now they're
yes, the
feeding on empaths in order to stay alive.
yes, exactly. Exactly. And so the AI, because it has no connection to source, it has to feed off of beings and energies from beings that are connected to source. It's like the sun, how we eat plants and then the plants give us the sun's energy. It's the same way where we're connected to source, but if they take our energy, they get source energy because they can't survive without it. Nothing can survive without source energy, just like nothing can survive without the sun. And the sun is actually a representation of source, a higher concentrated amount of source energy, by the way.
And so this AI, because this is something that like
Uh-huh.
it's something that's very interesting to me because it's like kind of come up in like the newer spiritual stuff. So like a lot of the stuff that I read into is a lot of stuff from like the 80s and 90s into 2000s. The
Right.
Dolores canons and those people were people who started writing those books in the 80s into the 2000s and then were too old by that point. And then there was like a new wave of stuff of information that comes in from different types of like spiritual channelers and practitioners and stuff, which kind of is just a lot of people coming through with this like AI information. And then so like how does that show up in our life? Is that showing up in like the NPCs type of people? Is that showing up as like the media matrix stuff, like this AI energy? How is it like kind of showing up in our like our day-to-day life, you know?
Let me ask Raina. I don't know. I'm actually curious. I want to ask her about the NPCs, actually, is what I want to ask her.
Yes.
The NPCs are not AI. We are in a programmed matrix that is separate from this AI concept. The NPCs are a very neutral part of this programmed matrix. That's her answer.
I
Take it
love
or leave it
that.
how you will. Take it or
I
leave it
love
how
that.
you will.
So basically, this
Um,
thing being separate from the AI is that this is like a completely different program. It has nothing to do
it's like
with
a
whatever
parasite.
inorganic or organic. It just
Yes.
exists. The simulation
It is
program.
like it's almost like even if it wasn't artificial, say it was a real gray intelligence hive that was just a gray thing, makes no difference. It's just like a being a soul collective that's really trying to be like parasitic. They love to feed off of our strife, our worries. They had a big machine on the moon. Everyone's probably gonna think I sound so insane. I probably do to anyone who doesn't live in my head
Hey,
or talk to the
this is a safe.
Pleiadians.
This is a
They
safe
had
space for people who
I
know what we're
know, but
talking
it
about.
sounds nuts even when I say it. But there was this big machine on the moon that was a gray machine that was harnessing our lower vibrational energies for a long time. The Galactic Federation of Worlds disconnected it about a year ago,
Whoa.
but it was harnessing off of our strife, our anger, our wars, which is why our society loves to make us hate each other and be angry. It was feeding off of because we have source energy and all our emotions we give out. The strongest vibration we give out is our emotions. Our emotional bodies are huge. There's actually aliens in the galaxy that aren't as emotional as us that can't be in our presence because it's just so overwhelming. Our emotions are huge. They make a huge energetic, it's like a huge consciousness stream of our source connection, our energy.
And
So
just
there was this
imagine
mechanism that was
like a regular situation where like say like I posted about in one of my videos where like you go into an elevator, you say hi to someone and someone doesn't say hi back to you. The amount of emotions that just the wave of all these different things, imagine a being from another planet like experiencing the wave of emotions that we do in
right.
just a 10-second awkward situation. Our emotions are like, this is
It's
funny,
huge.
this is awkward, this is hilarious, this is embarrassing, I'm important, I'm not important enough for this person, like all of this feeling, you
Right.
know?
I'm so sorry. My phone is gonna die. Can we keep talking for a little bit? I might plug it in.
Yeah.
Is that okay? Okay.
Yeah. Plug it in.
Ask questions to anyone. Ask questions if you want some questions answered.
Yes. Hi guys. I know I have barely been looking at the comments here. Um let's see. And I have questions too. And it's only like I only wrote down like,
Cool.
10 questions or whatever, but
I actually might pee real quick. I'll be right back, guys. Ask your
go
questions.
for it. Yeah. I know if you guys have any need to hear more about Am I into human design? I am interested in it. I do want to do actually another one of these lives with my friend Marisha, who is really good with human design. And I would like to ask her. She would know much better than I do. Blood types, a lot of stuff about the blood types. Marina Jacobi. Personally, I love Marina Jacobi. Marina Jacobi has some really legit information. Cyberpunk. That's funny.
Oh, honey, I'm upset you about Marina Jacobi.
Oh,
I'm so sorry. I feel like I'm always telling people Santa doesn't exist. She is also connected to the AI. I'm so sorry. But
wow.
it's night. A lot of her information is so true. 90% of it is spot on and so true, but you can tell the AI because they're very robotic about stuff.
That's the way I feel
They
about a
like
lot of things
they
with
like to
like
talk
when
about
things are too
code and
robotic.
numbers.
Yeah,
Who?
when things are too robotic in code. I do the stuff that I've shared about her information, I do resonate with, which is like the kind
Oh,
of like
she's so I watched her too.
how our matrix operates. I absolutely
She's
like
right.
with
She
like this
and
like
it sucks.
trinity, this like thing of like it triples, it triples, it triples, it triples, and that's what's constantly creating the thing. But you're right, there is this like okay, so that was one of the other things too, is that in that video originally that you talk about like this AI stuff, um uh and I'm also like the type of person,
Yeah.
I still like get information from something. Like a lot of times I see people talk about like say the law of one or other stuff where that, oh, it's been somewhat compromised. I'm like, I still like to read it all and see
Oh,
what lines up with
100%.
everything else.
100%.
But one
I
of
think
those
that's
things
so sorry.
is the way, right?
Oh, 100%.
Like,
I think that is so important. Everyone, you need to just have your own sense of what sounds true to me, and that's all that matters. Like, you don't need to listen to me, you don't need to listen to her. You take in what we say, take in what everyone says, and then come to your own guides and see what resonates with you. Because don't get me wrong, Marina Jacobi, I've watched a bunch of her videos because a lot of stuff she says about the Matrix lines up with what Pleiadians tell me. So I'm always very interested. But but she does get a lot of information from the AI. If that's where she gets her information, but it's 90% truth, and you have to just take what everyone. I even Bashar. I know who Bashar works for. I know who he works with, but I still watch his videos because he has 90% truth. It's so profound. It's so amazing. So I just always think like. Don't let me demonize you if you like these people. Listen to them. I like Elizabeth April. I listen to her sometimes. I don't I don't agree with her like hybrid stuff. I know her
mm-hmm.
agenda, but if you look at 90% of her work, it's amazing, if that makes sense. But
And
that's
that's
why
the
it's
thing
so
too.
important
Yeah.
to meditate, listen to your own discernment. You'll know what's true for you. And it doesn't matter what anyone else thinks is true. It's what is true for you. And you can kind of piece together what you want. But yeah.
So that's one of the things too. Like, a friend and I have a mutual friend. And this person talks a lot about like she's a practitioner and she does well as a practitioner, and she talks a lot about false light, and that's for me where I really kind of like separate it. Like we're kind of like, me and my friend kind of started to feel different about this person, whereas like we were both like,
Hmm.
oh, cool, cool, and then we both had this mutual friend and we both started to kind of go on a different path, and like this person started to kind of like become very much about like false light. And so false light is one of these things that's obviously triggering for a lot of people because it likes to play into a lot of people's beliefs and say that like people's beliefs are, Pleiadians get stuck into that, the false light, archangels, and then the whole false light thing is like a lot of times people talk about like basically you think you're channeling light beings, but you're actually channeling dark, lower astral things, demonic energies, dark energies,
Right.
that. The archangels are archons, they're reptilians, like people do the whole thing.
Right.
The Pleiadians are actually, you know, Nazis, they're Nazi angels, and all they do all of these crazy things. And like it came up the other day with some of my friends, and then my other friend brought up a great point, and she was like, you know, the false light thing, it really like kind of like psychs people out on their beliefs, and people will be really
Right.
invested in these beliefs where they're very connected to, say, Pleiadians or archangels or Arcturians or this or that. And then all of a sudden, someone kind of like channels an information through, similar to the AI stuff, where it's different, the AI thing, because what you're saying is a different where it's coming from. But then a lot of people do similar thing
Right.
with the false light, where they say, like, basically, oh, these beings are actually tricksters. And so my other friend said, like, oh, this is like, you know, this is like psyching people out on their beliefs. And then you kind of leave people in an in-between state where they're very into these beliefs. And now they feel psyched out, like, say, like the Metatron stuff. And now, so some of these things, a lot of this comes back to something that I saw in one of your videos, which you talk about like the AI stuff, and you talk about like the voyages, Ashayana Dean stuff. And
Oh, I hate her. I'm
like
so
Ashay,
sorry. I'm so sorry. I don't hate a lot of people. I keep a very open mind. I really, my guides gave me, first time I saw her, my guides gave me like very bad. Don't listen to her. I'm so sorry. Like, I try to stay really neutral. Like, Bashar, great
yeah,
information. You like him? That's cool. And like, I don't actually resonate with the term false light. I think it's something divisive, particularly
it is
planted in the spiritual community to
meant to
create
be
that.
psych people out on their own
Yes,
beliefs and leave them in an
fully
in-between
believe that.
state, super vulnerable.
Fully believe that. And so if you like any of these people we're talking about and stuff resonates with you, that's amazing. I just advise keep your own internal guidance really close to you, really sit with the information, and if it resonates with you, it's meant for you. It doesn't even matter. The only person I would say I really just have vehement feelings for is the Voyager stuff. She
Yeah.
has the worst aura. So I see auras. It's funny. I see people and I can see exactly your energy, and I know it, and I can see it right away. Her energy is really dark, really, really dark. I
Mhm.
don't fuck with her at all.
So that's really interesting because I actually had never heard of her until TikTok, and then a bunch of people had asked me about her on since I started TikToks, and mostly everything that I post about, and we talked about this already, like privately, was that like all of the stuff that I post about is like 10 years in the making. These are things that
Right.
like for the last 10 years I've been delving into. So the Ashayana Dean stuff I only just recently heard of since TikTok, and I don't really do any videos about things that I just heard about, you know, just because I don't feel like I know well enough yet. And I really wanted to give that a chance. And I listened to like 6 hours of her lectures because like I really wanted to try. And it's that same type of thing where it sounds like this like computer trying to like put something in that like
Yeah.
isn't fully like adding up. Whereas like when I read about like say like the Barbara Marciniak stuff, you know, I do feel like I connect with that, or like Dolores Cannon stuff, which isn't channeled, it's hypnosis, but there's things where it goes in very easily and the information's easily received. Whereas like Ashayana Dean, I feel like her information was not easily received. So I really needed to consciously like take the time to like, and I gave it the time to listen to. And I still always had this feeling of like, why does she secretly like feel? And she comes through in everything that she says that everyone is wrong besides her. And when someone says that everyone is wrong besides them, it gives me like a feeling of like, I
Yeah.
don't trust what you're saying,
100%.
because there's all of these other people, and even the people who sometimes, like you say, are 90% legit and 10% false information. Even those people, even religions, even organized religions, everything, most things line up within
Yeah.
like 80% of each other saying similar stuff if you can pull back enough. Then you have people like Asha Anadine who basically says that like everything that you know is evil, you know, and like we are in, and then we're like, say, the reason I brought that up is because of the false light stuff, is that like the archangel stuff. She talks about like the Metatronic stuff, and like, I don't know. I'm not personally invested in Metatron, whether Metatron's good or bad. I'm not personally invested.
Yeah.
But that's kind of her MO with everything, is like every deity, everything, it's like they're secretly evil. Even the Fibonacci sequence. Even the Fibonacci sequence is actually, we're on the evil Fibonacci sequence. And I was like, damn, that actually hurt me. I don't know why I felt personally hurt by that one, but that one hurt me.
Same. It's a the Fibonacci sequence is a beautiful ingrained code of vibration. And so just to go, but I totally agree with everything you're saying. We did a few questions. Someone asked what I think of Abraham Hicks. I love her. I think she's great. I've had so much stuff come through from people's guides about manifestation and vibration. All of it lines up with what she says. Big fan of Abraham Hicks. Totally am on board with that. We had another one. What was it?
There's so many questions
Oh,
on my side about teal. Like everyone's
oh
asking
yeah,
about teal on
no.
my side.
Okay. I feel like we were getting to that. Actually, she came up in my mind while we were talking just now. Someone asked if we can do a seminar in real life that they'd pay to watch both of us talk in LA.
Yeah, let's figure
Yes.
it out.
Obviously, I'd love that. I actually tried to invite you to come to Disclosure Fest in LA with me.
I know. I didn't even know it was going on, but I want to
It's
start like doing more stuff like that. I want to do like
let's
more
go.
speaking.
I honestly, I want to be on a panel next year. I'll invite
Me
you. Let's do
too.
it.
Yeah.
I would love that. I have friends who work there. I think I want to be involved in a panel next year, and girl, let's do it. 100%. I'd be down.
Yes. Yes.
Um, Teal Swan. I'll tell you my experience with Teal Swan. I had never watched any of her videos. One of her videos popped up once, and as soon as I could see her energy, I was like, immediately no, immediately no. Because I can feel people's energy. I'd never even looked into her. And so when all this
No,
Teal
she has
Swan stuff came
very
out,
scary eyes. Like her eyes, like I said, I wouldn't call myself psychic, but when I look into her eyes,
I
I am.
would. But yeah, no, I immediately just saw her energy and I was like immediately no. And then this documentary came out. So many of my followers were asking about her. So I watched a little bit of this documentary and I was like immediately I'd already known like Teal was a big no for me. I would just be hesitant of any spiritual teacher that has no humility because I will be the first to say I don't know everything. In fact, if I don't know, I'll ask my spirit guide. She knows. And I'm always open to everyone's perspective, everyone's information. I will 1,000,000%. I'll be the first person to be like, I was wrong on this. I had no idea. And because the more that I get into I've been a psychic medium for 2 years, the more I learn, the more I'm like, I don't have any fucking idea. Like, there's new stuff I see all the time. I don't know anything. I'm just here figuring this out with you. And I'll be the first person to say that, like, I don't know everything. I'm just I have a connection to a Pleiadian and she tells me a lot of stuff and I'm always willing to share. But like me personally, I don't know everything. Teal scares me when she's like, I think I'm the most advanced spiritual teacher on earth. I've never met anyone who's on my level. You gotta, that in itself is like a red flag
Yeah.
where you're like, you know what I mean? Like I
And
already
so
knew
there's the thing with
immediately
teal.
no. And then I thought
I've
that.
gone deep. I've gone deep down the teal rabbit hole long before this documentary because I'm that researcher type. So
Yeah,
like when I see someone like Teal who her eyes, when I look into them, like actually give my bones chills. I am the
that's
type
your
of
guide.
person,
That's your guide.
but
That's
I'm
your
the type of
internal guide.
person who's like, why? And then
Yeah,
that's the reason why I have a lot of information about stuff, is because I dig. And I did go into her personal story, and that's not even what I want to talk about because whatever. But there is a couple of things that are very interesting about her. You know, she's, I don't know if you're into human design. She is the reflector, which is less than 1% of the population. So then there is also like this element of like, she is actually different than everyone else. And so what I've learned is that also with like human design is that like all the other types, except for this less than 1%, produce energy. and I'm probably butchering this information, but this is very simplified, is that they produce energy, whereas this one reflector type is the one that absorbs energy. And when you look into her eyes, you feel her eating the energy.
Oh my God. Okay, let me tell you this. I have not looked into her whatsoever. I watched a tiny bit of that documentary. I was like, no, 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 I turned it off. I don't know a lot about her. I will tell you this. So many of my followers were asking me about her. I did an internal meditation and looked into it. What I learned, a lot of like healers, teachers, things like that, we have an aura that gives energy. Her aura takes energy. She's like
Mhm.
narcissistic. She has very big narcissistic tendencies. She also is a bit her reality is a bit delusional, I would call her. I would call her delusional, where she creates things and she believes those delusions, and it goes with that narcissistic thing. Her aim is her own a good spiritual teacher, your aim, your real reason you're doing it, I'm here to help. I want to help people. That's what me do. That's what I do. That's what you do. We're here to help, inform, do whatever we can. We're here to serve. She is in the entirely opposite direction. She's here for energy, other people's energy. She wants fame.
Mhm.
And she lies all the time. She's such a liar. You know how I can tell when you lie a lot? The Arcturians showed this to me. When you tell one lie, we have an energy field around us, right? It's a certain pattern, it's a certain vibration. If you lie one time, that
Ooh,
messes with your actual energy field. There's a congruence. If you lie, it ruins the harmony, it ruins the
wow.
congruence. One lie, which is
I
why
feel
my
that.
Arcturian guides one of my Arcturian guides pulled me aside one day and they were like, Vanessa, we don't like how you lie. And I was like, I don't lie. What? I don't. And then it was so embarrassing. They showed me every instance in which I'm lying. So they showed me an
Wow.
instance where I was hung over one day. My friend was like, oh, do you want to hang out? And I was like, oh. And I didn't get back to her all day. And then I was like, oh, so sorry, so busy. They were like, you're lying. That is lying. And it's messing with your energy field. And I was like, oh, damn. When I used to drink a lot more. I drink very little now, but for special occasions I do. If I'm being a little bit verbose or gregarious or exaggerating the truth when I'm drinking, it was so embarrassing and so humbling. They showed me all these instances in which I didn't think I was lying, but they were like, when you do things that are
Wow.
not authentic, it's actually messing up your energy field, which is why lying innately, it's a universal truth that lying is bad because it
Wow.
actually messes with your energy field, if that makes sense.
Oh my God. No, that's amazing. And I totally
Yeah.
feel that. And, something interesting that I had heard, I think it was Jordan Peterson who had said it, was that when someone lies, especially in a relationship, and it's like a betrayal, but it's like when someone lies in a relationship, it actually not only changes the present, it changes the future because now you're looking at the future differently based on their lie, but also that lie changes the past too. And I was like, wow, that's so true, because when you find out that someone has been lying, it changes the past, the present, and the future of that entire experience with that person. So it is interesting that it's like you're saying they changes their entire energy field. If we go back to, which this is also something I learned from Marina Jacobi, which is like we only really have the one moment, and the moment is just being reprinted, 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 reprinted. And then basically, so if your energy field is, because you're lying, your energy field has been compromised. Now, all the timelines, the past, future, and present, are all compromised. So it's like it
Yeah.
really does like line up with that stuff when it's also in our lives. The way that we're lying are usually just little white lies, as we would like call them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Something like
Like
what you're
I thought,
saying. It's like we're like white lies, which we're not that serious.
right. But it's still when you're being inauthentic to your soul vibration and your truth, it messes with your energy field, which is why essentially lying in itself, you wouldn't think it's bad, but if you're not being in energetic congruence with you, because our
And
soul
you harm
vibration,
yourself more than anyone with a
yes.
lie. You're
And
mostly only harming yourself.
yeah, and it's our soul vibrations are so pure. We are source, and it has this beautiful geometry and congruence. So when you're not being authentic to your soul congruence, anything that's not authentic to that messes with your energy field, essentially.
Wow.
So, so
Okay, let me see
interesting,
what
right?
other questions I have for you here.
For sure. Actually, I'm so sorry. I have to pee again. I've had so much.
Go for it.
I'll be right back.
If someone tells a lie to joke, is it still bad? I don't know. Lying poisons the soul. I do feel that way. What if you come clean? Interesting. If you come clean, that's probably like a really big breakthrough for your soul because it means that you've thought about it and broke through, and that's a big decision to make. Oh, yeah, that's a big question. What do you think about walking away from the light when you die in the cycle of rebirth to stop the cycle of rebirth? Yeah, that's definitely, I don't agree with that way of belief. I am going to ask her that actually, because I don't agree with that at all. I think that that's part of that like false light, even though I don't like those words, false light. Um, the earth does not understand sarcasm. Interesting. Um, yeah, I am going to ask her about this because I feel
And
that way.
that, what do you want to ask me about?
Okay, so this is an interesting question. This is like a big question, and I'm feel like I would know how you feel about it, but so someone asked about, this thing that when they say when you pass, when you are crossing over, the don't go into the light thing. So about the whole reincarnation trap. So that's what someone was asking about. It's basically what they're asking about. It sounds like the reincarnation trap, the don't go into the light thing, that if you go into a light, you're basically like in a prison planet type of thing.
Okay, I'm gonna let Raina answer this actually. The prison planet thing is to limit us in our power. We're ultimately powerful. We're not in a prison planet, is what she wants to say to start, to preface. That this is gonna sound really out there, guys. That mechanism that was on the moon was part of a kind of trap. I think that's where the light thing comes from, where it would force you to not leave Earth if you want to reincarnate somewhere else. There was this thing on the moon. It was put up by the Gray AI. The Galactic Federation took it down about a year ago. So everyone passing away now from here on out, you can choose to incarnate on other planets. There was a sense of control where it would cause Earth people once you get here, you can't leave. So I understand the Earth. Raina wants me to make this very clear. Earth is not a prison planet, but there was a control system that wouldn't let you go. The light thing was, I guess, it's kind of tied into that, but she just wants to make it very clear. She doesn't even want me to go into the details. She wants me to say that it is not a problem anymore. It's not something anyone should be worrying about. Everyone, if we pass away now, you have the ability to leave Earth and go incarnate back with your soul family if that's where you came from. It's your choice.
Wow.
Which I
So
feel like
that
sounds extra crazy, but
No,
that's
I
what
mean,
Raina
it's really
says.
interesting. I kind of have felt the same way, which is that it's not a prison planet. Um, that there is, I didn't believe in the way that people say with like the light. Basically, if you go into the light, you come right out as another person. I don't believe in that part. I believe that you still do have a life review and another life
Oh, you
selection, and
do.
there's a whole
Absolutely.
process. But I didn't necessarily think it was a trap from a control mechanism, like a lot of people said that there was on the moon. I was not a big believer of that. What I believed is that this trap, I thought that there was an element of a trap in the sense of like the matrix is not set up for people to heal. So basically, when people, the extreme trauma that we experience here through all of the horrible stuff that's here, these horrible organizations and everything that it enable for just horrible things to happen on the planet, that those basically entrap you into the matrix and you basically get stuck on a karma wheel. So it's not exactly a prison planet, but that there is a karma aspect where basically it's so fucked up here, you can't really heal, that you basically are kind of feeling enslaved into the karma wheel. But it's not that you can't leave, it's that you just have to learn in order to leave.
Right. And it's all so complicated to be honest.
It is. And
Um,
exactly through our means
it's
of
complicated.
interpretation.
Yeah. But really cool question. Someone's asking about Teal. She met her in July. All she does is sit with people and help them. Nothing else happened. And I totally respect your perspective. If it resonates with you and you like her, all power to you, 100%. But
And then, like what you were saying before about the
yeah,
90% truth, I think that
yes,
Teal, especially, I did watch the documentary. A lot of this, she does like 90 different practitioner methods,
yeah,
modalities in the one show. She does the combo, she does family constellations, she does this, she does that, she does this, she does that. So it's like she does every different modality. So I think most of those modalities are valid,
no,
like, to
100%.
work and be helpful. And I think what you were saying is not so much that like she doesn't help people, but as much as like she's also consuming some of that energy.
Yes. But that's my own personal opinion, and everyone's welcome to feel if it resonates with you, go for it. Like, please. Just take everything we say with a grain of salt, go into your own internal field. If it resonates with you, I'm sure I've heard she helps people. Totally believe that. They're
Yeah.
also saying her movie was a smear campaign. I get that. I didn't even watch much of the movie. I just watched a little bit of it. This is all coming from
And
my own
that was
channel,
true. And that
I
was totally
believe.
true because, I do the
Yeah.
deep dive on everything. So,
Yeah.
also on the fact of Teal's documentary, which was creepy and messed up, they filmed for 3 years. If in 3 years they only got 4 hours of material, can't be that bad.
Of course, it's
Also,
obviously got
the
its benefits.
order and things and the documentary people, there's a bunch of videos of them basically praising Teal and being like worshiping of Teal in an extreme way. So there was a lot of information. But that's like me, is I like to take all the information in. Does that mean that I don't think that she's absorbing people's energy? Yeah, I do think she is. Um I I think that also some of the information is super helpful because she uses the modalities that are like tried and true of every culture, you know?
Of course. No, I'm sure. I'm sure she helps. I've even heard some of my followers like she helps me, and like, and that's great. That's wonderful. I personally wouldn't go to her, but if it works for you, totally great. Just take in all your information, go to your internal guidance. If it works for you, it works for you. That's all that matters.
And one thing about her is that I think that she's willing to work with a different group than a lot of people in the spiritual community, which was
Right.
something that, when I was doing my deep dive of her, and I'm not a fan really, but like I do respect the fact that a lot of
Absolutely.
people are more towards the positive and the mental
Yeah.
mastery. I like to pull in the people of like the mental mastery, the people who want information, the people who are information seekers. Whereas like Teal can definitely tap into a certain aspect of people that fall through the cracks. So I'm like, at the same time, even though a lot of what she's doing is probably some of it can be questionable, like, at the same time,
Yeah.
she's willing to deal with the suicidal, with the darkness, and the super,
Right.
super, super dark depression. Whereas most other people that are in the same field turn away from that stuff of the sense of like, okay, well, positivity, whereas Teal's like, you want to die? Then die. And you're like, fuck, okay, she wants to go there. Okay.
I mean, I get it. It's funny. After doing my psychic work with clients all the time, guides can be harsh. Guides can really push you. Guides can really bring up your uncomfortable stuff they want you to work with. So yeah, I do commend her that she works with like the dark stuff and stuff. Like, believe me, I mean, I personally feel like there's something about our energy field that my guides have always been like,
not for you, but if it's for some people, it's funny because you have a vibration, you're attracted and you like people with a vibration. Like a lot of our audience vibrates with our vibration, you know what I mean? But Teal has a darker vibration and she works with depressed, sad drug addicts and they're at a lower
Mhm.
vibration. So she's meeting them kind of where they are. And
Mhm.
maybe that's helpful, maybe that's beautiful, you know? So
Yeah,
I don't
exactly.
profess
It's
to know
needed.
all the answers.
It's definitely needed. Yeah, I definitely, and especially the type of stuff that we talk about, we do tend
Yeah.
to like attract a little bit of like a different type of group, a different part of the spiritual group.
Sorry, I was just blocking a not nice person in my chat. Someone said women can be ignorant AF, so I blocked them.
Oh my gosh. I
Goodness.
block all day. Okay, let me see what else I have here for questions for you that I wanted to ask. I mean, most of them we got into. Aside from that, I would like to ask if there was any prophecy type information that you've received with your channeling and 5D
Uh-huh.
stuff, New Earth stuff.
Yes, I would love to talk about that actually. So, according to the Era Pleiadians, which is my main source of information, um, we're moving into a fifth dimensional consciousness, but it's a very slow upgrade, and it started with it has a lot to do with our sun and our actual the soul of our planet, where she's decided to upgrade, and because she's upgrading, we all have to upgrade. So we're all raising vibration very, very slowly. I don't think we're going to see the fifth dimension in our lifetime. I'm sorry, guys, we're probably not going to because it is such a gradual raising of vibration. We're literally moving into it's like we started here and we're slowly moving vibration. And even with like all these like solar activity, the Schumann rising, we're all getting like ascension symptoms. It's very intense for us. We're constantly going through emotional work to clear out old traumas, to raise our own vibration and let go of stuff. We're moving so slowly because if the planet jumped to 5D today, we would explode. We'd perish. Our
Yeah.
bodies could not even handle it. So, according to the Pleiadians, I think it's about a 200-year timeline, according to the era Pleiadians. I'll say that straight up. That's what Raina's told me. About 200 years. We're currently actually in the fourth, ever so slightly, right now. And we've never been in the fourth, ever. Which is why a lot of us are getting more of our psychic abilities. We're waking up this like dormant DNA. We're connecting more. We're ever so slightly in the fourth, and we're just going to continue to raise vibration until we get to the fifth. So we're probably not going to see it in this lifetime, but we're here to prepare for that transition. And our bodies are going to keep taking on more light and becoming less dense until we're finally able for Earth to just, um, when fifth dimension happens, the Earth, there's going to be a flash of light and it's going to emanate from the whole planet, and she's just going to jump and we're all going to jump to fifth. And I feel like that sounds crazy, but that's what I've been shown. It's going to be a flash of light. We're all going to jump to fifth, but it's going to be when our bodies can actually handle it. So we're not going to just die or explode when that happens. That's my personal perspective from the era Pleiadians that they've shown me.
I love it. For me, I do think that I don't think that we're going to be 100% in the fifth dimension by the time that we're gone here. But I
Yeah.
think that we're going to be like, whereas like Dolores Cannon talks about, like, kind of like how the initial stages, we're going to be completely in our regular bodies and we're just going to be
Hmm.
living on this kind of higher timeline and this different type of like reshaping of society, kind of like those initial like foundational aspects of it. So like with that stuff, with like the New Earth stuff, I think that we're going to be doing that through physical communities in the
Yeah.
3D. In the
Yes.
3D, we're going to like physically create communities that have these aspects of living, have these ways of living. Obviously, we're going to still be in the third dimension at that time, but we're going to set up these like places where enough like, main player character people who have this conscious energy to manifest are all in the same space manifesting that future. So like at the point where like we're fully light bodies is not going to happen in our lifetime, but I feel
Well,
like those physical aspects are going to start in our lifetime.
yes. So I fully agree. So you know what's so funny is when people keep saying light bodies. So I think I know a lot about a fifth dimensional society because Reina comes from a fifth dimensional society, and when I was a Pleiadian in past lives, I have recall. They are physical in their reality. So the
Mm-hmm.
Pleiadians I come from, Era, it was a fifth dimensional planet. My last life on Era was about 375 years in the future from our timeline right now. So I came back in time almost 400 years to be in this Earth body. So I come from fifth dimensional planet in Era. So what's funny about that, which everyone, so in Era, so in the Pleiades where I come from, it's off the Taygeta star. We actually call it Ashara. It's not called Taygeta. That's an Earth name. Um, we're fifth dimensional humans. And no one, it's funny, no one in the spiritual community talks about this, but like we're humans. We have blood, we eat food. They have babies just like we have babies.
Wow.
They actually have a way that you can actually have your baby be carried by like these pod things, or you can have your baby be carried the old-fashioned way in your stomach. So
Wow.
they are humans. They're just, they've raised their vibration so much, they've changed their physicality. If we were to go to the fifth dimension, like they would look, if fifth dimensional beings come here, they look like spirits to us because they're a
Mm-hmm.
different vibration. But when you get there, they have physicality. They're a fifth dimensional physicality, but they're humans. They're fifth dimensional humans just like us. So when we transition to the fifth dimension, the reason why it's not such a huge jump, it's not like we're going to light bodies. We're not. We're taking on more light and letting go of density and letting go of density up until we get there where our physicality is lightening so much it's going to
Mm-hmm.
go there. And there are there's another planet in our solar system, off Ashara, which is Taygeta. It's like the eighth planet where it has higher dimensional light being Pleiadians. There are light being Pleiadians. They're seventh and eighth dimensional Pleiadians where they don't have physicality and they don't go through a life review and then go into physicality and then go back to spirit world. They have
Mm-hmm.
graduated beyond that. So it's fun. I hate saying this because people get so confused. There are fifth dimensional human Pleiadians, and then there's like seventh, eighth dimensional light being Pleiadians that just have evolved so high that they don't have
Mm-hmm.
physicality. They don't go into physicality anymore. So there are light being Pleiadians, but I feel like it confuses everything because there's also human Pleiadians too, if that makes
And this is
sense.
one of my questions for you actually was about the ancient Pleiadian ancestors versus the Pleiadians that people are channeling are oftentimes from the future, right?
Yes. We there was a thing with the Andromedan Council. It's about 400 years in the future from now, where the universe, there's a very big balance of light and dark, which is part of Source's overarching idea. There needs to be light and dark because the dark forces the light to elevate and you learn more lessons. If there was no contrast, no one would ever grow. There's a balance in the universe that Source maintains, and it kind of sucks to say that like, oh yeah, we're all going for the light and Source wants the light. To be honest, Source wants a balance because it wants growth. It wants soul growth. So there has to be adversity. Something happened on this planet around this time where the Orion group and the reptilians ended up um, genetically modifying us so much that it pushed us, and Earth humans are royalty in the galaxy. We're the only people in this whole galaxy that are made of 22 different alien races, which gives
Mm-hmm.
us a lot of crazy abilities that we've been suppressed on, but we have such a unique genetic blueprint that we are more powerful than we can even understand, which is why everyone asks, like, why is Earth important? Why is this whole ascension? Why are all these envoys here? Why is Earth important? It's because we hold 22 different alien races. There's nowhere else in the entire galaxy that holds the genetic blueprint of all these alien races together. And together, it gives us all these crazy multi-dimensional abilities that a lot of different other beings don't have. The Greys, they can't go beyond fourth density. The reptilians, they can't go beyond fourth density.
Mm-hmm.
Um, But sorry, I don't even know where I was going with this. But the reason why it's so important, like, so the reason why a lot of us envoys came from the future is 400 years from now, the galaxy was just taken over by this gray reptilian
Oh,
AI
wow.
system, and it was making trouble for everyone. It was so bad that the Andromedan Council foresaw that this was the turning point where the really powerful Earth humans, or these very unique breed of 22 different alien races, once we got genetically taken over and hybridized into this gray AI, it was kind of like lights out for the balance between good and
Wow.
evil. People just started taking over. So what they did is they were like, we can't let this balance be so. It's funny. I left, I'll tell you this, I've never even talked about this on my TikTok, but when I left my body in the Pleiades, I was about 375 years old. I was a grandmother. I had a son who had two little girls. I left my body in stasis in the Pleiades, and they escorted my light body into a body being born on Earth to be here for this ascension to help hold a frequency to create a big change. The reason why it's so funny that this is almost 400 years in the future, I was about 375, is when I grew up in the Pleiades, I got to see from when I was a little girl to that age how the galaxy started getting taken over. I lived my whole life with the gray AI coming and taking over planets and
Wow.
making the galaxy really scary, and everybody in the Pleiades was getting really worried. I lived my whole life from when I was born is when it really started, to where everything just started getting taken over. So many people were dying, so many planets were being destroyed, so many planets were being taken over. It got to a point where we were like, we have to go back in time and change this, which is where the Andromedan Council were the big proponents of, this is the moment, this critical time, these last, like, this 30-year period we're living our lives in right
Wow.
now was the critical time. We have to go back and we have to change um, the vibrational future
Wow.
of the Earth humans. And so
So it's
that,
almost like
so,
this thing that we hear about in like the raw material and all of these things where there was this like time a long time ago, ancient times, before ancient times in Orion, where basically there was a balance between good and evil, and eventually the or service to self, service to others, where the service to self became so powerful, which is what led to Earth being created. And then now we're saying that 400 years in the future, we're kind of coming back to that point again, where it's kind of like the service to self or the service to others is basically at that
right,
balance again, where it's about to take over, which is going to
right, but this
provoke growth again.
Right, but this was the point where the gray AI started hybridizing the humans to be part of the gray AI matrix. And it's funny because when the Envoy program happened, like, I was born 30 years ago, so were you. We went back in time and volunteered to hold a higher vibration because Earth decided to get away from these grays because they can't go fifth dimensional. Everyone decided, we're just going to raise the vibration so much that the grays can't access us anymore, but we needed so many higher vibrational souls to choose to be born here to hold a higher vibration and help facilitate this change. Um, and so we have won, by the way. We've won. Like, the cascade of high vibration and Earth going to fifth dimension, we've won. And
Wow.
they've just been scrambling. It started probably about 5 years ago where it was such a drastic change. We've really won in the last few years. And so it's funny, the Gray hybrid program started trying to double down on their efforts to hybridize us. I don't know how you feel about this thing, but
Mm-hmm.
I fully believe it's the first step in the Gray hybridizing program. To
Wow.
hybridize us enough to genetically connect to the Gray AI, they're trying to modify our genetics. I hope I'm not
Yeah.
sounding too spicy or anything.
No,
If
no.
you've gotten it,
You know,
don't get
I
any
have
boosters.
mixed feelings about the grays and the hybrid program. You know, I have mixed feelings. I don't, like I said, even with negative and darkness and all of that, I always think it's serving the light. So even that's basically how I feel. The same with like grays, the hybrid program, all of that, reptilians. I feel that like all of that stuff is always still serving the light as a way to
Definitely.
grow, as to all of these things. um but like, yeah, I definitely too, I this is why I like to hear all different sides of things, because it's like some people have all different types of information, you know, and it's like, this is the one thing too that I have heard about
Right.
Grays too, is that they do want to be hybridization programs because they are now invested in the planet. Is that then they basically have stakes in the planet that they're allowed to partake in, which at this point they're not allowed to partake in because their DNA lineage is so far back that it's like irrelevant. So without the hybrid
Right.
program, they really can't stay invested in Earth.
Right, exactly. And they can't be here because the Galactic Federation kicked them out this last year, and they can't come back unless we use our own free
Mm.
will to invite them back. But they wanted to hybridize us so that we weren't even human anymore, that we weren't even our own individual souls, that we would be hybridize our genetics where we could connect to the gray AI. And once you're connected, it's like you're a robot. You work for them.
Mm.
They work, they're your consciousness. So, it didn't even come from anything, like not even any of the info on it out there. The Pleiadians from the get-go were like, absolutely not. Do not do it. It is not good for you. Don't do it.
Oh,
Um,
the thing,
the
right?
Pleiadians,
Yeah.
this thing, don't
Yeah.
do it. They
Oh
were like,
yeah. Same.
do not do
I
it.
mean, you know, it's not something that I've really talked about at all publicly, but I'm like, no.
It's
Right
a spicy
I was like,
topic.
nah, there's no way. Every single thing is saying no. And that was all I did in the beginning of that was I meditated and was like, please, like, universe, do not let this be an issue for me. Like, I need you to orchestrate some things so that I can, you know, continue being
Right.
true to myself.
Right. I actually don't usually make, I'm sorry to bring it up on this live if it's like too spicy. I actually
No,
made
and
a
I'm
video about it
having a
once and I
head
got
like
so
what
much
it is.
hate that I had to take it down because like TikTok was too
Oh wow.
spicy. And I'm just
Yeah,
like,
I haven't
I'm
really
just
talked
gonna,
about it just because a lot of times I don't put too much of my personal opinion, although obviously the stuff I
right.
share is my personal beliefs mostly, but I also don't put too much of my personal opinion just on TikTok, you know, more so for
That's
YouTube. You
that's
know?
fair. I love your YouTubes. I just every time I'm watching your videos, I'm like, I wish they were longer. I also just want to
Oh.
commend you. The amount of interesting stuff you've thoroughly researched. You have read all the Dolores Cannon books. It is ridiculously impressive how much you bring up quotes from different books. I'm like, girl, are you just like making notes? Like, oh my goodness, it is wildly impressive the research you put into your
Thank you.
videos.
That's what I said. Is like it's literally like all of my videos are 10 years in the making. Because if I didn't have the
Right.
past 10 years of gathering all this information, I wouldn't be able to connect everything. You know? So it's like and
Yeah.
even too my other skills, like every aspect of it is 10 years in the making. That's the only reason that I can put out videos at any type of pace. You know, like that it would literally
Yeah.
take me a year to do one video if I wasn't 10 years into the research.
Right.
It's so crazy. Let me see if I have any other questions for you
Sure.
here. I'm glad that we got into all of them. Yeah, I feel that we got into everything. This is great. And I'm so glad that we did this because
Me too.
yeah, there was so many things that I wanted to talk to you about. Let me see if there's anything
Definitely.
that's popping up here. Not anything that I would ask.
I kind of wait, can I ask some questions for you?
Yeah.
Because I'm terribly curious. Okay, wait, let me confer with my guides what I want to ask. So I kind of see that you're going to be putting together like community in the future. And I know that sounds really big and overarching, but I see you bringing together lots of people in a very public way. Can I ask
Mhm.
about that?
Yes. Thank you. So basically, pretty much my like long-term goal. I've had many like more self-serving long-term goals, more towards like my filmmaking type stuff because that's what I like to do.
Ah,
But as far as the community thing, which is like my real important long-term goal, is that I've been just for like the last several years, just like I can't get the image out of my head of um, basically building like a city, building
Yeah.
an eco community where, and
Yep.
I've put so much thought into it. I've put in the thought of like, there needs to be checks and balances within the community. So the community needs to be broken up into like almost like separate states so that each community too has their own rights. If something, so like I'm thinking about all of the things, and like I've always been like a good manager of like
Mhm.
I've had a million jobs as a manager at every business, you know? So like, which is not crazy if you look at my TikToks that I'm good at managing a lot of different departments. So I see kind of like myself always being kind of like this person to be able to kind of pull this community together and to be able to kind of oversee and pull a lot of people together who have the different skills of like the eco, you know, greenhouse stuff and the eco building and the off grid this and the that, and like people with all different like qualities, you know? So I do think that that is like, um in my future of like kind of like building a community that will eventually legally become a city.
Yeah. So that's exactly what my guide showed me is your path and what you're trying to do, that you're going
Aw.
to be building a conscious community, which is so cool. Um,
Oh.
one really quickly, someone just asked, if we're from the future, then why do I remember so many past lives here? Time doesn't really exist, guys. Time doesn't matter. I look in people's Akashic records, I see them jump times. Time does not matter. So it just goes by what you've gone through and what you're going to go through. So even though technically my last life was about 400 years in the future from now, it doesn't even matter because time doesn't matter. I just was there in that time space, and now I'm here in this time space, if that makes sense.
And it's so true. It's like kind of once you kind of get past those things, those questions
Yeah.
don't even come up because I didn't even think of that. But a
Yeah.
lot of times when we post stuff on TikTok, especially like a video or whatever, you get those type of comments of like, well, how is that possible if the time frame is this? And you're like, oh yeah,
It's
they're still
confusing.
not.
It's
It takes
it's
this the
confusing.
like breaking through the time barrier.
Right. It's a limitation. That's an artificial limitation that try not to think about it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
That's really cool about your community thing. I was so cool when my guides were showing me that. It seems like do you mind if I read you a little bit more? Just a little
Yeah,
bit?
please.
Okay. I'm glad you trust my psychic abilities.
Oh yeah.
Um, I guess your film stuff has taken like a back seat and it's kind of picking up more recently.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that's going to be a big thing for you in the next couple years. I feel like you need to put out some important information. It's funny because TikTok is like your little outlet for that. It's like you make your own little movies of information. I feel like it was taking a back seat for a few years, and it's something recently has changed where it's starting to come into your awareness more. Maybe more opportunities are coming up. You need to do that. You have a message that's so important that you signed up to spread. Um, Another thing too, your guides want you to really start diving into your psychic abilities and working
Oh,
on them a little bit more. You have so many natural abilities. You just roll with it. Go for it. Also, you have channeling abilities too. Just start meditating and trying.
okay.
You also have a lot of galactic guides. I know you say you only trust your higher self, but you have a lot of galactic family around you that's constantly giving you input and stuff. I would maybe try to connect to them a little bit more.
Okay. Okay.
I would suggest.
I'm open to that. That's definitely a thing with the guides is because like I said, I had gotten scared like 10 years ago and basically I
Right.
was like, that's it. It's just my higher self. And my higher self always like comes through with what needs to come through. But I am open to, you know, opening up a little bit more to the guides and everyone.
You just gotta trust yourself, and I fully trust your discernment.
Yeah.
You seem pretty spot on. Just yeah, I wouldn't worry too much about it. You know what's funny is Raina is a higher self of mine.
And I
Uh,
totally, that's what I think a lot of times the channeling is like a different version of your higher self.
Raina is me when I
Hmm.
was Pleiadian. in my last life, which
Yeah.
sounds confusing and crazy, but she's a version of me. I was her, which is funny because I don't even, when I first heard her name like 10 years ago, I was like, I don't even like that name. Like, I just
Yeah.
like Raina. But she is actually me when I was Pleiadian. So it's funny, she is a higher self version of me, if
Hmm.
that makes sense, which sounds like so confusing,
No,
but
it is. I mean, even when I did my hypnosis and the practitioner asked kind of where the information was coming from, it confused me and he moved on. But they basically said that like I'm like, oh well, the information is coming from an angel. And then he's like, oh well, who's the angel? I'm like, well, it's me. I'm the angel.
yeah.
Like, and then he's like, well, what do you mean you're the angel, but you're this? And I was like, well, yeah, it's me. And then I was like, wait, I'm confused. And then he's like, okay, let's move on. And I'm like, but it was like he had asked a couple questions, and I was like, oh yeah, but I'm the angel that's giving the information. And then I was like,
Yeah,
wait, no, wait, what? And then he was
right.
like, okay, let's move on.
So funny. Yeah, that's such a crazy thing.
So I
But
definitely
yeah.
feel that. I feel like the higher self, and sometimes we're channeling basically just another version of ourselves.
Oh, absolutely. And I also just want to say to anyone watching, I would highly suggest meditating and asking to activate all your extraterrestrial DNA that is
Mm.
in your highest good. I would do it as a mantra daily if you could, because since I've started doing that, my physicality has changed in the last like 2 years I've been on TikTok. I don't know if you want to go to my old videos, but I'm actually starting to look much more like Reina than I did
Wow,
previously, if
that's
that makes sense. And
crazy.
if you want to know what I mean, scroll back to my videos when I first started and you'll see what I mean.
Wow. And I think that's like so true. Like when you also kind of step into your purpose, you step into a different, like, visual representation of who that is. You
Right.
know, literally look different. You look more like exactly like a higher version of yourself, which is like I did this meditation a while ago, where it was like basically for you to see yourself like living the life that you want to live. And what was crazy for me is that it was like almost identical, except she had a lot of bracelets. So then that's when I started wearing a lot of bracelets. But like literally, she looked almost identical to me, but she had a ton of bracelets on. So then I was like,
So,
got it. Bracelets. That's it. That's what I needed.
so to be honest, Reina wears her hair just like this. So
I
I
love
wear my hair
it.
like this now. Um, You know what's funny about her too? So I've been pulled up on the Pleiadian mothership often to talk to her, and I feel like this is so funny. She's always in these like gowns. The Pleiadian women wear these like nice flowing dresses that are a material
Oh,
that's
why
like
wouldn't
it's
they?
light and flowy. But it's so funny because everyone always shows the Pleiadians. Mostly they show them in their Galactic Federation uniform, and the Ahel Pleiadians, the kind of Pleiadians we were, they wear a blue colored jumpsuit. That's the Ahel Pleiadians.
Mhm,
The more brown haired, tall Pleiadians wear a silver jumpsuit. So you can tell the difference between them. Every different
mhm.
race in the Galactic Federation wears a different color to identify them. So everyone's artist depictions of the Pleiadians, you're usually connecting with Galactic Federation Pleiadians, so you show them in that blue jumpsuit. But what's really funny is on the Pleiadian mothership and on Era, because I have past life memories, the women wear these long, flowy, like summer dresses, which
Yes.
I find hilarious.
And
They're
you know, they say a
beautiful.
lot of times people channel a lot of the beings all over the galaxy are wearing robes, which makes sense. Robes
I've
are
seen
so
robes.
comfy.
I, well, the Pleiadian men wear pants for the most part. These like tunicky shirts and these like natural, like you see a lot of hippies wear like linen long shirts and linen
Yeah.
pants. That's what they dress like, except they're not linen. It's more like it's a really flowy material. It looks lighter than ours. I don't know, it's probably a fifth dimensional material, but it's really light and flowy. It moves with the body and it almost moves through the air. So when I watch Raina walk around on the Palladium mothership, I'm fascinated by her dresses she wears because they just look like they're light and flowy and flowing through air,
Ooh,
if that
I
makes
love
sense.
it.
Which I was, Oh, someone says mine wears a long blue dress. I mostly see Raina in a long blue dress. I'll admit.
Wow.
That is what I mostly see her in. She loves the color blue, light blue colored. Me and Raina have a light blue aura. It's the same color as our aura. Actually, she loves to wear that color.
Aw. I love it. Okay, so we're coming up on like 2.5 hours here.
Yeah.
Let's see if there's any like other questions that I have or you have or anyone here has. Let me make sure that I've answered everything. Did you say earlier that you get your information also from you? Well, you get it from Raina, but is it also too with the Akashic
Mostly.
record?
Yes, I get it from the Akashic Records. I get some information from this Octurian collective that I work with. Um, yeah, I get it from different places for the most part, but yeah,
Nice.
I get a lot of
Okay, so
information from the Akashic Records.
someone's asking,
Oh,
what are
sorry.
the Pleiadian goals for the universe?
I can ask Reina. What a big question. Let's ask.
It
Honestly, I
is.
should probably just go live and do like a Ask the Pleiadians Q&A
Yeah,
sometimes
you
because they always
should.
people ask great questions and she gives me amazing answers. Her big answer is the Pleiadians' basic mythos that she puts it as we are all on ever evolving journeys to connect back to source consciousness. So she says that the Pleiadians' main message for their society and also their main message that they give to every single channeler on Earth is they're trying to show people our true source connection and all the vibrations that kind of go around that. So it's essentially helping people remember who they are and embody
Ooh.
it. That is the Pleiadian message.
Ooh, I love it. And that's very similar to the Marciniak books, which are channeled by Pleiadians. Is very much the
I haven't
whole
read them.
for. Oh, you haven't? Oh. Um, you should
I
listen to the
I'm always
audiobook. I'll send you the links so you
okay.
have them online.
Okay, yeah, I'm down. It's funny. I don't the My guides don't let me get a lot of books on alien races and stuff. I wanted them for so long. I was so interested, and I go through all these records, and I see people's past lives. So I'd see all these different aliens, and I'd see where they're from. And I kept being like, "Oh, let me get a book," and my guides would be like, "No," because there's so much misinformation out there. They would not let me.
Mm.
So I don't read a lot of those books. They let me read Dolores Cannon's books, which I'm super happy about. The only book on alien races they ever let me get is called A Gift from the Stars by Elena Denon.
Oh, wow. Her name comes up all the time, especially when I was doing the alien
You
videos, and I've never looked into
you
her
have
stuff.
to get her book.
Wow.
You have to. I was watching a guy's live, and he was going through alien races with a book. And as soon as I hopped on the live, my guides were like, get that book. And I was like, no way. You're going to let me get a book on alien races? No way. So I didn't even know who she was, didn't know anything about her. I went right, ordered it immediately. So I get her book. And she ends up getting abducted when she's a kid, so she talks about that. She ends up getting rescued by these Pleiadians that work for the Galactic Federation. And when they rescue her, they tell her that she is actually from the Pleiades too. Um, and they're all these beautiful, tall, blonde Pleiadians. And in her book, this is what it resonated with me so much, where I was like, ding, 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 my girl, soul sisters, is that she talks about the different Pleiadians. And I had videos before this book where I was like, I'm from Era. My guide told me. I had said that out in public before I ever got this book. She found out that she's from Era, which are where all these blonde Pleiadians are from. And there's different planets in the Pleiades where they have like brunettes and stuff. The blonde ones are from Era, and that's where she's from. And that in itself, I was like, so much confirmation because I've seen Reina. She's blonde. She's from Era. Everything in her book resonated with me so crazy. She goes through all these different alien races And I've seen so many weird, obscure alien races from Orion, from this, and people's past lives. Every single thing in her book, I was like, I recognize them. The
Wow.
mermaid people from Sirius, I recognize them. Her book, it's the only book I think I would ever be like, this is 100% truth.
Wow.
100%. Everyone should get it.
I
You
have to
should
check it
get
out
it
because her
soon.
name
It's
has
so
come up
good.
a bunch of times and I wasn't really familiar with her.
Yeah, I
Oh.
love her. She's from the same planet we're from at one point. Although, you know, it's so funny. It's called. People are asking what it's called. It's called A Gift from the Stars by Elena Denon. I am obsessed with her and everything she says about Era. I have past life memories. She says like the sky's kind of pink purple. I've seen that in past life memories. She's the real deal. She definitely is from Era because the way she describes it, I've already seen that. I would vouch for her all day. Um,
Wow.
I want to say one more thing about you is you have this beautiful Andromedan male spirit guide
Mm.
around you, who I would
Interesting.
suggest you connect with. He's a higher version of you. I actually think he might have been the
Ooh.
version of you that came to this planet.
Mm. Very interesting. Well, there's this like being that shows up a lot, which I thought was like kind of like a soulmate, but it didn't feel fully romantic. It felt just like very loving like that. And then the Akashic records kind of sometimes randomly they'll tell me shit that I didn't ask. That is like kind of disruptive that I really didn't ask. And one day they told me that this being was my father, my real father of who I am. And I was like,
Yeah.
well, I'm done for today. I'm done. I won't be asking any further questions. And so it's interesting that when you said this, like, kind of like male Andromedan being, there is this kind of being who I felt like kind of, it's like, I don't know if it's a lover. I don't know. And then later
It
on, they told me it's a
feels,
father. And I was like, well, okay.
I'll tell you this, it feels, the vibration feels so much like you that he's either a version of you or he's a twin flame of yours, which
Mm.
is there's male a twin flame. There's so much misinformation about twin flames. I've
Oh,
asked
yeah.
Raina, what are twin flames? It is one soul split into two polarizations, a male polarization and a female polarization. Doesn't matter the body you have, you hold those polarizations. You're one soul. Um, most of Raina also told me this. Most of the envoys on planet Earth, your twin flame is still in the planet or still in the incarnation of what you
Mhm.
left, and they're holding a vibration for you to hold your vibration here.
Wow.
So 99% of envoys, your twin flame isn't on Earth. They're in
Hmm.
one of the motherships above planet Earth, and they're holding a vibration so that you can hold a vibration, living this hard
Wow.
human life where we forget who we are.
Wow.
Yeah, I thought
And
that was
that's what a
interesting.
real
No one in the
twin
twin
flame
flame community.
soulmate would do,
Yeah.
is like really stay
Yes.
and hold they're holding the rope that you're hanging off the cliff with. They're like, I'm gonna hold this down for us. I love
Yeah.
it.
So
Wow.
I do feel a male Andromedan presence around you that might actually be a twin flame version of you, or
Wow.
you. I can't tell, but it
Well, this
feels
is
like you.
must be why a lot of men here on Earth really just don't compare. They just don't meet the mark.
It's funny. I do have a Pleiadian twin flame counterpart. He's on one of the ships. But I do have a Pleiadian Starseed fiance in this life. Um, You know what's
Oh,
funny? I always thought that's so weird. I love blonde and redheaded tall men, and my friends would always make fun of me and be like, "That's kind of racist, right?" I'm like, "No, no, it's not racist. It's just what I've always liked." But it makes sense learning that I was Pleiadian and this is my first Earth life. That's kind of what I'm attracted to.
yeah.
I have a Pleiadian sense of attraction, so I guess.
Oh,
But yeah,
so great. I'm
so
so okay. So
funny.
I'm so glad we did this. Um, I'll have to
Yes,
come down to next time you're in LA, let me know. But also I want to come down.
definitely.
I mean, it's not too far, San Diego. Like, I mean, it's a drive, but it's also
It's
not
like
crazy.
2.5 hours.
Yeah, it's not crazy.
Yeah. But yeah,
Not
we
for
should
LA
definitely
driving.
get together. No,
Yeah, I know. I'm
it's
so
it's
glad
true.
that we did this. Do you have a
Yeah,
YouTube?
no, thank you for inviting me. I
Yeah.
do have a YouTube channel.
Okay, so is this going to be on your YouTube? This will be on my YouTube.
Yeah, yeah, we could do that. But yeah, it's Vanessa Crystal Consciousness if you want to follow me on YouTube. And if anyone
Perfect.
wants to book a session with me, it's in my bio. And I have sessions. I'm out for the month. I'm actually booked out until September. I'm booked out until October, but I have sessions in October if anyone wants to book.
Nice. Well, guys, go to her page, check out her sessions, her YouTube, all of her videos. I'm so glad that we did this.
I
This
know.
was like our
Thank you
little
so
like
much. I
girls,
literally,
our little girls hangout. This was like we went and like got a coffee together.
right, alien girls hang out. It's great. But
Yes.
yeah, thank you so much again. And I'd be happy to do this in the future if you ever
I
want.
know. Let's do it again. Okay, thank you so much. This was so great. Thank you
Yeah, thank you.
guys.
But yeah, have a great night, everybody, and we'll probably all see you soon.
Oh, thank you.